They can't all be perfect. Tonight we're going to have an open discussion about what to do when the inevitable happens and your gaming event fails.
In addition to that, we've got lots of gameplays to talk about, including 2 recent local events. We had our usual monthly brews and board games night, but we are also honored to host the board game area at Sakura Anime Festival.
Before we get going, it's time for some introductions. I'm Sean, your host, and I'm pleased to announce the return of our webmaster and editor, Deanna.
Hi there to all the Bellhop boarders.
And of course, we also have Mo, the Tabletop Bellhop himself.
I am Mo Tuzano, the Tabletop Bellhop, your cardboard concierge, helping you make your game nights better.
Now, in addition to the 3 of us, Gwen will be joining us later tonight in the Bellhop's Tabletop segment, since she played and helped out with both of our recent events, and due to Dee not getting much gaming in due to her eyes.
Now, we try to record these episodes Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/tabletopbellhop. While all of you here live are well aware it's actually Thursday. So sometimes that doesn't quite work out. Now, we will let everyone know on our Discord as well as on social media, and we'll make sure to send out something special to our newsletter subscribers and patrons whenever we aren't going to be live on Wednesday, but normally Wednesday nights. And we love it when people join us in our chat room, which we like to call the lobby. And I got to thank everyone who is here tonight, because actually it's a pretty full house for what we usually get. We've pretty much got our Wednesday crowd on a Thursday. I guess I'm sorry you didn't have something cooler to do on Thursday, but thank you for spending your Thursday with us.
Well, this episode exists in part thanks to our Patreon patrons. Find detailed show notes for this episode at tabletopbellhop.com/episode 272. That's 272. Some links there may be affiliate links. Are you local to Windsor? Do you like cookies? I can only assume if you're listening to this, you like board games already.
If you'd like to check out a local bakery, which also features awesome craft beer and other beverages, adult and otherwise, while playing a selection of awesome games from the Bellhop Library, we've got a brand new event for you. Cardboard and Cookies at the Cookie Bar, located in the revitalized Ford City on Droulard Road. They're giving us a trial run on the first Thursday in June. That is June 5th. And if things go well, we hope to make this a monthly event, aiming for the first Thursday of every month. Now, this event is going to run from 6 to 10 p.m. Note that is an hour shifted from our Walkerville event, 6 till 10. And there will be no cost to play any games, and we'll have people on hand to both recommend games and teach those games.
Now, the best thing about this being on Thursday is that you get the freshest quarter-pound craft cookies baked that very morning. Check out the just check out cookiebar.ca for their current cookies on tap and other details about their menu and location.
Can I just rave about the craft beer menu? Because they have 12 taps, 15 taps. It's good stuff. It's a nice mix. I love going there. Sorry.
No, that's fair. And the other thing they have is they are also a bottle shop. So they have multiple cans of Ontario craft beer that you can actually get to go as well. And if I remember correctly, it's cheaper than drinking in. So you can do the draft. The draft selection's great. They do offer flights. But just so people know, they do have other drinks. They do have coffee. They do have cans of Coke and Pepsi and Mountain Dew and all that stuff too. They have juice. It's not just alcoholic stuff, but I got to say, for me, we're going to have board games. We're going to have craft beer, and we're going to have amazing cookies.
Really good cookies.
Go wrong. Yeah. Really good cookies. Before that happens, though, we do have our monthly brews and board game event at the Walkerville Brewery coming up on May 15th. Apologies to anyone who got our latest newsletter when I said June 15th. That is incorrect. It's May 15th. I don't know what month it is. We love seeing both gamers we know and new faces coming out. And don't forget, you can get a hold of us ahead of time before the event to request games. If there's something you've shown up and played and enjoyed, and then when you were disappointed the next time you came out we didn't have it, just let us know at least 2 days before the event, and we'll see what we can do to bring what you'd like to play.
If you're not already a member, you can check us at discord.tabletopbellhop.com, where you'll always be kept up to date with all of our local events. The Tabletop Bellhop team is here to answer your gaming and game night questions. Tonight's question comes from longtime fan of the show and local Windsor gamer, Kevin. Kevin keeps it short and sweet by asking, what do you do if a planned event bombs?
Well, thanks for the great question, Kevin, who unfortunately doesn't seem to be in the chat tonight. Must be working afternoons. Or it's just because it's a Thursday instead of a Wednesday. Well, I'm happy to say it's been quite some time since an event we've been involved in and planned has totally flopped. But we have definitely had flops in the past. Not all of our events were shining successes. I've definitely done the thing where I have sat at a table at a local game store and just sat there for 4.5 hours while no one showed up. And I've also had events where other more serious things went wrong. But at this point, now, after many failures, I think we're at a point where things tend to go well. Most recently, though, I would say the Sakura Con that we went to last Saturday could have gone better. Now, I don't think it bombed, but I think I was hoping for more out of that event. So having run events here in Windsor, Ontario for 23 years now, ranging from public play game nights to organized play RPG events to D&D nights, and pretty much everything in between, I do think we probably have some authority to be able to talk about this. And I want to talk about what to do, right? Like, what do you do if your event just bombs or doesn't work, or honestly is just not as good as you expected?
So the first thing that came to mind for me when we talked about covering this question was that first thing that you mentioned. What do you do when no one shows? When you put together an event, and this could be at your house or it could be a public play event, and you have invited a whole bunch of people and there was some indication that somebody was going to come, or you wouldn't have bothered to put this together in the first place. And then it's yourself and crickets, or far fewer people than you expected. So maybe we should talk about that first, is what I was thinking.
That sounds good to me. Honestly, the first thing I tend to do, because we live in the modern age where everyone has cell phones, and most events are actually organized online, is I immediately go online and start reminding people, trying to show off why they should show up, right? So if I am sitting at a game store, so the event in my head that I was thinking of when I was describing that was the first ever demo night for X-Wing the Miniatures game, which I hosted at Hugon and Munin, and absolutely no one showed up for it. Well, what I did was I set up a game and I set up the minis and I put them in dramatic places and I made it look really cool. And then I used my phone to take a bunch of pictures. And then I posted it everywhere I could think of, saying, hey, come out to CG Realm, at the time, Hugon and Munin, come out to Hugon and Munin and learn to play X-Wing. Just look how awesome this looks. Similarly, SakuraCon, to go to our most recent event, one of the things I did near the beginning of the show is I walked around and I did a short video where I showed our area, where we were, our banner, and what games we had brought, hoping to entice people to come out with that. So my first solution, if you've got no one there, is try to get people to show up. Like send out reminders, send out a newsletter, follow up. If you sent out, skeets or whatever, go and reskeet them, reshare them. That's my first thing to do.
My first thought is to back it up even before that, and to think about how do you best invite people? Like, putting out, not doing it the day before, making sure there's enough advance notice. If it's a small group and it's your home group, you're probably going back and forth and trying to figure out the ideal time for people. But when you're doing a big public event, you just have to pick a time that works for the venue and works for yourself and roll with it. But I think the important thing is to make sure that you get the information out there like 2 weeks beforehand, at least, right? And put it out more than once, and don't assume that people have seen it. Talk about it more than once. Put out multiple social media messages, send email invites or direct invites to people, text people, your closer friends or whatever, but give them advance notice.
One of the big problems we're running into these days, and this is becoming almost a bigger issue day by day, is how social media is working. And it's one of the reasons why it's important to have your own controlled source. You'll notice we talk a lot about discord.tabletopbellhop.com on this show. And that's because if you are a member there, if you do join there, then we have the ability to control the information flow. If, for instance, you are on just Facebook and you follow us on Facebook and you pay attention to events on Facebook, Facebook is going to tell you about our event whenever Facebook wants to tell you about our event. And if I post something, if I'm, we're at an event, we're setting up, I take a big picture of all the board games that we've got that night and I post it up there, and 3 days later you see it. Well, that doesn't do anyone any good, but that is out of our control. Similarly with Skeets and what other various social medias there are algorithms controlling that information flow. So you really want to make sure that when you are getting information out, you are getting it as early as possible, as Dee said.
Yes.
But if you are trying to do anything last minute or up to the minute, do that on something that you control as well, because that's where you're most likely to get that information out there fast.
So on Facebook, we have a Facebook group for the locals, and that tends to work slightly more consistently than, say, having a page or your personal page, a business or fan page or your personal page where you're posting about events or even creating an event. You're not sure if people are going to see it or not. But the stuff that we post in the group, it seems a larger percentage of people will see it. So I would say in order, it's like the Facebook group is down here. It's third place. The Discord would be second place. And first place would be a local newsletter where you have everyone's email address and you can write people directly to say, hey, this is what's going on this month.
Now, what I would add to that is Board Game Geek. If you're having a board game event, Board Game Geek has forums for all the regions of the world, broken out by province for Canada and almost by city in the U.S. For us, we just post in the Ontario forum. That's how I got people out in 2002, was the Board Game Geek forums. That's how I got our initial group to come out to a Knights of Columbus on Walker Road that's long closed. And that's where I met people we still talk about these days, like Charles. So I still post our Walkerville events on Board Game Geek, though I sometimes forget. But somewhere like that is actually really good. Sean called out Discords. You have not only your own Discord, but other local ones is another good place to put out things. But I think we're going to have to move away from how to advertise your event, because I think that's a whole topic.
Yeah, no, sorry, that's a total. I didn't want to dip into ads per se, and we are talking a bit much about how to. That's how to keep engaging people that you've already met and have already attended events, as opposed to maybe getting out new people. But yeah, I wanted to. I don't know. I thought that's an important part to touch on. That whole you put all this thought into it and no one shows up. I mean, that's the biggest epic fail of all, as far as I feel.
Now, as for when that's happening, another thing you can do to prevent it is bring people with you. Your free open board game night can be the chance for your regular game group to just play some games, which does two things. For one, you're not sitting there bored and frustrated and bummed out that no one's there. You at least get to entertain yourselves and have a good night and still play some games. More than that, that's what will attract walk-in traffic and strangers or people who just happen to be in the area. If you walk into Hugon Immune when I'm sitting there with all these ships set up and looking depressed, you might walk by. But if you walk in and there's 4 of us all playing games of X-Wings and looks like we're having a great time, there's more chance those people are going to join in. So that's true for anything happening as a public event. Now, of course, for your own game group, that's a little different, unless you can guarantee someone's always there. But it's always good, like, bring someone with you so you have a set audience, right? Like, again, your close friends, your game group, whatever that happens to be, having at least them there can at least make it so that if no one else shows up, at least you guys get the game together.
All right, I want to jump to the opposite end of the event. Like we were talking about beforehand, how to make sure you talk it up beforehand and people hear about it in plenty of time and stuff. But what about like the post-mortem? You had an event and it didn't go well. The people that came out didn't have a good time for whatever reason, or people didn't show. What are you thinking about and how are you breaking it down to make it better next time?
Now, one of the things I think that's important, sort of in all segments of this, is to understand the expectations of the event, because what is a fail is determined by that. So you may be upset about how many people showed up, but if the bar sold a lot of food and drink, they might have loved what happened. So it's making sure that the expectations are correct. If a local board game store brings you in for an event and you get 8 people to come and learn a new game and 4 of them buy that game, that may be a huge success for that board game store. 4 sales. Great. Those people will probably come back and buy more. But you were hoping to have 25 people there all playing the game and just all the people in the city playing that game. Well, that's mixed expectations. and making sure that you've got the right expectations for your event is really important to determine whether or not there has been a fail.
I don't think low attendance numbers are the only way an evening can fail, though.
Yeah, expectations are huge. I don't want to skip over what Deanna said there, though. Postmortem's important. Even better if you can do some kind of postmortem with the people who did attend, which moves to, obviously that doesn't work if no one showed up, but it might, because then maybe you can go back to that Facebook group and be like, hey, no one came out. Is there a reason you couldn't come out? Was everyone just busy? Was there something else going on? Was there something you didn't like about the event? But a lot of it is just self-reflection. Sit down and think about it and take it seriously, and don't just be angry that your event failed, but look at why it failed. A big one for no one showing up is obviously you probably didn't promote it well, whether that's marketing or how you advertise the event, or again, mismatched expectations on maybe the demand for whatever event you're having just doesn't exist. If I had suddenly put together an event happening in 2 weeks in Windsor for everyone to come out and play Auto Duel, I shouldn't be surprised if no one shows up, because Auto Duel is not a currently supported game. It's something that is a very niche, and even in our hobby, group of people who play. Now, similarly, if I put a group together and I want to play Card Wars, and I'm there with my cardboard counters and my range rulers, and people show up expecting the new 6th edition, there's going to be a totally different reason your event flopped. And your postmortem there should be, hey, obviously the people who did show up were expecting something totally different than what I was providing, or what I'm providing, there's not enough people interested in for this to be like a set event. Maybe it needs to be something smaller, more niche. Maybe I just need to find that group of 4 people and play in someone's basement or game room.
And one of the things I think we've found doing sort of our own little postmortems for not failures, but for every event we do at Walkerville, is going over the game selection that we've brought, talking about the menu and how to better suit the needs of the people who are showing up. And we bring a wide selection, as anyone who knows brings, but there are definitely certain games and certain types of games that tend to go out more often, and it changes, so it's hard. It's never there's never one answer to fix it, and we can never sort of hone in on the perfect menu. But talking about, okay, well, this type of game tends to be getting played a little bit more often. I'm having an easier time getting people to be interested in this type of game, whereas, no one wants to play Weather Machine because no one is there long enough and with enough brain power while they're drinking to sit down and play, a 3.5 hour brain burner sort of thing.
No one wants to play Hamburg. It doesn't matter how many months I put it on the menu.
Yeah, and actually something we could do a little bit better, and something I strongly recommend anyone who's hosting an event does, is keep an actual list of what got played. Like, we have menus, and we've talked about it, and we've said we should be doing this, is walking around during the event, or like Sean just taking a list and a copy of the menu, and every time a game comes out, putting a tick mark next to it, so we can really see. So it's not a matter of us sitting there at the end of the night, or often a couple days later when we're together for breakfast going, all right, yeah, this got played. I didn't see anyone take this out. Like, then you'd have hard data. And that's just a strong recommendation for anyone hosting events to avoid failure, is track data. Track how many people are showing up. See who are the repeat customers, who keeps coming back. Are you getting new people? Are you not getting new people? The new people, here's a great one. This gets to expectations. When people show up, ask them what they expect from the event, but not necessarily in that, what do you expect to get out of this? But hey, what kind of games are you looking to play? If you ask them first, especially before they've seen, wherever your game table is, then you realize what you're advertising to people and what expectations you're setting before they show up. So if I have someone show up and I'm like, oh, what are you looking forward to play? And they're like, oh, I'm really hoping to play Headbands. And you know what? I haven't played Parcheesi in years. We're like, okay, obviously there's something missing. We're not getting the hobby game thing across. We're getting the try new games, but we're obviously advertising that badly. And that's something we've actually struggled with Walkerville, because we do get a wide range of people. And I find the people who are coming in that are expecting more casual games tend to be the ones that saw the flyer somewhere else. They're not people who are in our Facebook group. They're not on our Discord. They don't listen to the podcast. They just heard there's a cool board game thing going on at a brewery and a board game, and sitting and playing board games while drinking sounds fun. So we need to try to focus that. And when we first got our original flyers, it just had a bunch of dice and pawns on it. And I asked Walkerville if they could redesign it to at least add some hobby gaming. Now, all they added was Catan and Magic, but at least that's closer. I really should sit down with them again and say, hey, here's some, I don't know, modern meeple or something that looks a little more modern gaming to throw on there, because we've already been told by a couple people that our event looked like it's hosted in the year 2000 because of the games that are shown.
and nothing against Magic, but it's not really a night to come out and play Magic, and we're not providing Magic decks. So it's kind of weird to have that on the flyer.
No, we did have groups come out and play Magic at first, and I think it's when the flyer was there and people were bringing their decks and playing. But I think those people have better places to go play Magic, because those same people are still coming out, but they're playing other games. And that particular group actually really loves card games, so they're enjoying Cadaver, and they're enjoying Psychobabble, and they're enjoying other card games we have, Cookie Crown. I noticed they're no longer bringing their Magic decks.
I think one thing to help guide you on this whole path to again, figuring out whether it's a fail or not, or dealing with things that are fail, is knowing what the goal of the event is. And this goes back to, and this is something you can take up in the postmortem, but you really need to sort of have a guiding focus. Why are you doing the event? Sure, you want to play board games. Well, that's part of it. Except if you're doing this at a business, why is that business having you in there? What are their reasons for bringing you in there? If you're doing it at a local board game store, they probably want to sell a couple of board games, or at the very least, make sure that people are now familiar with the store who hadn't been before. If you are at a restaurant, they're going to want to sell food or sell product, some food, drink, whatever. They want to make money. You are there to get people to sell the product of the place you're in, generally speaking.
But even if it's a home game night, you need to know, is your real goal, I just want to play some darn games and I want to play as many games as possible? Or is your goal more about the socialization and getting together with your friends? What does a successful game night look like to you, right?
So I think in particular, Kevin's looking for actual more events. To me, that doesn't mean game night. And plus, we've already covered what to do with a game night failure on a previous episode. I'll throw a link. I don't have the number right there.
It's true. In the question, he said events.
Events,
game
specifically events.
Right?
So I think we're talking about events. So we've talked about not enough people showing up. And what I'd like to do is move on to some other type of failure. Another one would be no one's playing the games. So you've got the games and no one's socializing, and they're just sitting there and they're not sure what to do. Now, again, part of this is expectation setting. People sometimes show up, especially when you're at a restaurant, and especially when you provide something like a board game menu and expect to be served. They expect people to be waiters and waitresses. This is something we've learned over within the last 2 years. So what do you do to get people gaming? And the most important thing is have someone there that knows the games. Not necessarily knows how to teach them all. That's an added bonus as far as I'm concerned, but can at least talk intelligently about each of the games there, and then can try to make the connection. Because the most important thing in all of board gaming that every publisher wants, and I think every content creator wants, and our main goal is to match the right person with the right game and get them to the table together so they're playing, and getting the right group with the right games. And having someone that can do that is huge. That is massive. The biggest game night failures I've been to are ones where I've attended another event where there's just a table full of games and a bunch of people sitting around looking awkward. Someone needs to be a host. You need to have someone there to manage the event, someone that can recommend games and then put people together, get people together, be like, okay, that's a 3-player game. We need 3 more people. Let's find those other players. Whether that's a shout across the room looking for 3, whether it's the holding the game above your head or some of the con tips we had previous episodes, or if it's going table by table and just going, hey, we're about to start up a 3-player game of this. You look like you want to play something. Do you want to play? You need a host. Game night events, and any successful game night event is going to need someone to play host.
So even when we have a successful event, I find sometimes, I'm assuming the rest is happening to the rest of you, not just me. I will recommend a game to someone. I will sit down, I will start teaching it, they'll start playing it, and that game just is not the right game for that group. It falls flat. And the thing is, you got to try again. You got to figure out what didn't they like about that? Why was that not the match that I thought it was going to be? And then back it up and go, oh, wait. You actually think Catan is a really, really heavy strategy game. Okay, we're gonna reevaluate. You asked for a heavy game, but you did not want you didn't want something off the heavy game menu for real. You wanted something more in this category, right? Bringing an a mystery game to a family that seemed age appropriate, but wasn't, because kids levels vary, right? So you have to pick up on where it failed and then just try again, not just be like, that didn't work. Don't just let the individual group have a bad night and leave. Try and reassess and give them another option.
And that's where some of the teaching can really come in, because I am sort of excelling at on our board game events is the sommelier of board games. I'm standing there at the table and I'm interacting with the people as they come up, letting them know what we offer, what we do, and trying to get a feel for that from them as to what sort of board games they want. I've got a standard line. How competitive do you want to be? Do you want to leave hugging, or do you want to leave, throwing fists at each other? As to whether or not we're going to give them a nice little friendly cooperative game, or we're going to sit them down with Deanna and play Zensu. So, getting a feel for that. But then it really requires, in our case, what we use this sort of team thing, whereas I'll get them, lined up and set up, send them off with a game. And then one of our teachers, either Mo or Dee or Gwen usually, will go off and sit down and teach them. And then they'll come back to me and say, "Oh, wow, that was a little tougher than we thought. They weren't really quite ready for that. They're going to have fun, but that was a bit much for them." And so I can use that and sort of reevaluate and go, okay, well, when they come back, let's try, we'll use this part of the table for them, because if that was too much of a struggle. And using that feedback to, reinforce your ideas and make plans and be willing to adjust and adapt on the fly as people are reacting to your things. And unfortunately, sometimes some people are just going to have a bad time, and they're going to be grumpy, and they're not going to like what you gave them, and they're going to leave. And we always try to avoid that. We always try to sort of redirect and give them another opportunity for a good time. But some people just aren't interested in that. And sometimes, that may not be a failure. That may be a failure if it happens all the time. But we try to, as much as possible, limit that and keep it to something. Now, one thing Mo's much better at than I am is the combining groups, because personally, I find that a horribly awkward thing. I don't want to be crammed together with strangers. Mo likes doing that, so we let Mo coerce people into finding new gaming groups.
Yeah, I struggle with that when people show up and say, "I would like to be matched with the group," and I'm like, "You would? Oh, okay. I have no reference for comparison in my brain, because I don't want to be matched with strangers. So, let's see. Who shall I awkwardly introduce you to?" Yeah, no, I really prefer when Mo takes care of that part.
Now, of course, the big thing is most people hosting game nights don't have a team to do it. We are lucky that way. So some of the things you can do, you need to have someone who's a greeter. Someone has to greet people at the door, say, "Hi, how's it going? Can I hook you up with a game? Can I hook you up with a group," etc. Like that. That's kind of a must. But the other stuff can actually be handled other ways. Like, again, I'm going to push our board game menus because they've worked so dang well and people love them. If you include information on there, like player count, player time, how heavy the game is, how light it is, you can go a step further and organize your games in a certain way. Like we have a big table we put them out on. Sean kind of sorts them by type, but also by box size. But like if you literally just go by player count, here's the 2-player games, here's the 3 to 4, here's this, or here are the party games, here's the heavy games, here's the light games, here's the cooperative, here's the take that. Another thing you do is Post-it notes, stickies, or if you want to go far enough, your business cards taped to your boxes, some other way to organize them. Something we've talked about doing and haven't done that I still think is a fantastic idea is a board game Bible, a binder that's there that lists all the games with more information. If you don't have a teacher there, QR codes to what you think is the best how to play video out there, as well as inserts in the board games and how to teach sheets and cheat sheets and esoteric order of gamers. They should be paying us for the number of times we call them out. All of that makes the games more accessible, because one of the things where I, again, seen board game events fail is where people aren't comfortable. Like they just show up and they don't know what to do. And then they grab a box and they fumble around with the rules. You don't really want that for a board game event. You want people to sit down, get playing right away and be having a good time. And I still swear the best way to do that is have someone that can teach. But I get it. Not everyone likes teaching. So remove that barrier as much as possible. Like I said, having how to play videos is fantastic. Maybe you have a bunch of tablets that you can let people use, so they're not necessarily using your smartphone. You just have like tablets, and you load up the video and say, hey, take your group, take the game, take this, set it up on the table and watch this. They'll walk you through how to set up and how to play. Most of the good how to play videos do the whole game from start to finish. Now, if you get a bunch of solo gamers, you might have Rodney telling you you'll have to discover that on your own. But for the most part, you can get a full teach from almost any game out there. And though we didn't like it, there's also an app called Dized that's actually really, really thorough. I found it a little too thorough. I was like, shut up, Dized. I figured that part out already. But I get it. It's a great way to teach games. So one of the things to make sure your event doesn't fail is to have that preparation there. And again, have it ready, have it available for everyone to get gaming right away.
Okay, most talking preemptive about how not to fail.
Yes.
Let's go back to the question and say, what do you do when it does totally bomb? And I'm going to say, try not to take it personally. Maybe it's maybe the weather was crummy and that's why no one came out that night. Maybe no matter what you did, that one group was going to have a lousy time because there's some group dynamics going on there, or they came in a bad mood. Like it's try to not take it as your own personal defeat and just brush it off and try again next time.
Yeah, this is one of those things where there's a lot of things, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much effort you put into it, there are things that are outside of your control. The weather being a huge one. Whether or not somebody else is throwing some giant, massive party one block over that you didn't know about, but everyone you know who games would rather be at that one because it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You can't allow for that. Critical Role is all of a sudden, live streaming in your neighborhood that night. Gamers are going to go to that. Your event isn't going to turn out the way you've wanted. You can't allow for that, but you can pay attention and learn. Oh, this is what happened. Oh, look, Critical Role was recording in the, theater down the street. Well, no wonder nobody showed up. I wish I'd known. I would have canceled the event and gone to that. Figuring out things like that and trying to learn what factors went into your event not turning out the way you wanted, so that next time you can try and account for, oh, okay, well, we know the streets flood if it's a rainy night and no one wants to come to this particular venue if the streets are flooded. Okay, well, do we try for a different venue to avoid that problem, or do we aim for a time of the year where the streets are less likely to flood?
So one of the best things you can do when your event fails, if you do have some people show up, is ask questions and try to find out why. This isn't always easy for people, but you try to frame it so it's not like, oh, this was horrible. Just be like, oh, did you have a good time tonight? No. What's one thing we could have done better? Like, you don't have to fix the whole event. What would you have liked to see? What were you expecting that you didn't get? Things like that. Like, ask leading questions. If you're not comfortable doing that in person, you could always have them fill out some kind of survey, have a QR code to a survey or something like that, or even just leave a feedback box or book where people can write in their opinions. Again, these aren't all things we've done, but if you just have that feedback box where, on every table is a little form to fill out. Oh, this is a good idea. Actually, maybe we should do this. What games did you play tonight? What was your best experience tonight? What would you change? And then they drop it off at the end of the night. You don't force people to do it, but if they're willing to do it, you need, again, data. You need hard, solid feedback. So you're not just sitting there going, well, I must suck, or people don't like me, or they don't like my event, or they don't like the venue. Like, you need to find that stuff out and try to figure out what the root cause of the problem is. And like, I could go into all 5 why methodology here and be like, why didn't gamers show up tonight? Well, we got a bunch of normals. Sorry, I hate saying that. It came out wrong. We got a bunch of non-gamers come out. Sorry. That was me flubbing English, not trying to use that term because we try to avoid doing that. Not a fan of the term muggles, etc. But yeah, try to get some actual feedback. And like, I do this at every event we have when I'm just, you have a good time? And if I notice anything negative on their face, I'd be like, oh, was there a game you wanted to play you didn't get to play? Like, you need that actual information and that feedback. I have had events I thought were failing, and this goes back to something Sean was saying earlier, where I then went up to the venue that was hosting and they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I'm like, really? The place was like half empty. And they're like, no, normally we'd have 2 tables full. You filled 6. That is amazing. We never had this many people here. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's cool. That went better than I thought. And I got to admit, that always feels good when that happens. So try to learn from your mistake, right? Like that's the big thing is if you fail something once, failing once, it happens, right? Not everything goes perfect. There are going to be so many reasons for things to fail. Don't give up. Don't blame yourself and try again. But before you try again, try to figure out something you can improve, something you can do better.
And even if you haven't failed, still try and find something you can improve, something you can do better. That's always the rule. It just becomes that much more important if you are feeling down about how the event went, because, looking forward to that next event and looking forward to what you can do better is going to help you feel better about doing the next event. And if you've got a positive idea, if you've got a positive mood towards your event, you're more likely to succeed.
So, before we move on, because I think we haven't really covered a lot of different types of failures. What other types of failures do you think of for when you're like a game night fails? And a really simple one that we've never had this problem because I'm ridiculous. And when I go to a game night where we have 1 hour to play a game, I'll bring 8 games, is not having enough games for people to play. Of course, the easy fix is next time to bring more games. Another thing you can do to encourage that is discourage that from happening is to encourage people to bring their own games. And on the other side of things, if you're going to an event, one of the things that can make it more successful for you as an attendee, as well as help out the people there, is to bring your favorite game just in case if there's nothing there you want to play or there's not enough people, you can again play your own game. That kind of goes along with the bring your own group thing.
I don't really want to deep dive this for an answer because I feel like we've covered it before, but I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about excessively competitive people, personality conflicts, a table flip. That's a pretty epic game night bomb if you have someone be like, I'm out of here. All right. It happens, people.
It has happened many times. The key I have found over the years is there are, in general, and I'm super generalizing here, but there are 2 camps of gamers. There are gamers who get together to play games and have fun. And then there's gamers who play games to prove they're superior and want the intellectual conflict, and they need to win. They need to prove themselves. And the key I have found over the years is that you separate those 2 groups. You find the competitive players and you match them with the other competitive players, and they are going to have an awesome night trying to outplay each other. The casual players, you try to keep away from that group. Now, there are going to be, of course, people in the middle, but the biggest thing I found where it's hard, and I still don't have a proper answer for this, is if you only get one of them, right? Like if a hyper competitive player shows up to a casual game night and there is no one to pair them off with, that can get difficult. The biggest thing when you see that is to set expectations at the start of the night. And this is something I always planned to do at Walkerville, but we never have an opening. I expected the event to be more of, there's a bunch of people waiting for the event to start. I would make an announcement and we'd start, and that's not how it worked out. But I think an important thing to do is set the tone at the beginning of the event. And the rule I always say is we are here to have fun. We are here to play games, and we're here to hang out with each other. Well, winning is not important. We expect everyone to play to win. No one cares who won the game, but at least try. We don't want people to mess around with other people's gaming experiences. So the whole thing is play to win, but it doesn't matter who's winning. The whole event is supposed to be fun if you set that expectation. Opposite, if I'm hosting a Great Canadian Board Game Blitz tournament, I point out to people, okay, this is a tournament. People are playing to win. There is money on the line. There is a prize. Do your best to play your best, but also stay focused on the game. Don't get distracted. Don't talk about outside things. Make sure you focus on the game so everyone's playing competitively. And you need to set that expectation ahead of time. And you can do that by simple things, by saying like fun local free gaming night versus come compete tonight in the epic duel of wits playing hobby board games, right? Like you set that expectation for the type of event you're hosting. A free open game night is very different from, again, a tournament or a scheduled game night or even a demo night. On a demo night, people expect to sit down and learn how to play a game from start to finish.
Right. I've had some success when I'm teaching groups, and I notice that one person in the group is more competitive when you do have that mixed group. I've had some success with that, with just setting expectations and saying, this is a casual game where everyone's just here to learn the game and no one's played it before and it's just for fun. And you can actually see some people step it the heck down right there.
Yeah, one of the things that we're lucky about with Walkerville is a lot of the Walkerville crowd is their own gaming group. So groups come in together and groups play games together. And while we do a little bit of matching, or at least Mo does, because D and I don't, but if there is a little bit of matching going on, a lot of these groups are self-contained and are already their own dynamic force. Mm-hmm. Where you really have to watch out and where the failure potential really exists is when you've got a lot of individual gamers all coming together to a night who are looking to be matched together. And that's where your real potential exists for that failure, for the wrong types of gamers to get mixed. And you really need to pay attention that much more on that kind of night, as opposed to a night where the groups are already self-assembled.
Now, again, you can really help that with what Deanna basically talked about. And we said it before that board games kind of need a session 0 too. Mm-hmm. Before that first turn starts, before you start playing, set that expectation ahead of time, right? Just to know that, like, hey, do you guys want an overly competitive game? Oh, hey, are you okay with table talk? If you're one of those people who likes to badmouth and talk smack in the middle of a game, well, that's great for your own personal gaming group. When you're at a public play event, always ask, see if that's cool. Most groups I find are cool with it, but some people don't like it. And I've got to admit, the first time I played a game with Tori and Kat and their friend Josh, I actually thought they hated each other because there was so much bad time. I'm like, man, what happened before these two showed up? And it ends up that's just their personality type. But again, as a host, you try to manage those things. An interesting failure that I have a feeling might be an issue at the Cookie Bar, so it'll be one of the few times I had to deal with this, is what do you do if you have too many people? I have a couple ideas for this, but I don't know exactly what we'll go for. One of them is if you are an event organizer, this might be a good chance to charge for your event. If it's that popular, you're getting that many people out, you want to get people who are committed and actually want to come. Maybe you charge a small fee to attend, which will weed some people out and get the more serious people in. Another thought is to like have some form of tickets, not necessarily sales, but like we have 50 spots and people sign up ahead of time. Once those 50 spots are full, you can try to walk in, but you're not guaranteed a spot. The main thing I'm thinking that will do is stop people from walking in and going, oh my God, there's no room, and getting turned away. Mm-hmm. You'll know ahead of time, right? You've bought your ticket or you've signed up and you're officially part of the event. And you're still going to allow walk-ins, but then anyone who does walk in knows, hey, this was a ticketed event. Maybe I won't get in. Anyway, we'll see. I'm hoping it's a problem at the Cookie Bar, and then we'll see what we're going to have to do. We'll see if we can overflow outside. Maybe it'll be nice out and we'll be able to overflow outside.
We need to have cards to hand them to tell them where to find our local events info.
Yeah, that's a good thing. So hey, other failures. What other failures? Oh, I would just to jump back to the problem players. There are other types of problem players. One of the big things is nip it in the bud. Don't let it grow and brew. If someone's a problem, talk to them, ask them to leave. If they're more of a problem than you can handle, you can also ask the venue. Most venues will have some form of policy or set procedure for dealing with problem patrons. It depends where you're at, of course, what that might be. But most of the people are fairly reasonable. And if you're like, hey, you know what? We've had some complaints. Here's what the problem is. I'm going to ask you to leave. You're welcome to come back. But if this is a problem again, I'm going to have to ban you from events. It is not fun. Trust me, it's not. I've had to do it a couple times over the years. Never an enjoyable experience, but it's going to make it better for everyone else there. And one of the most important things you can do to avoid an event failure is to host a safe and comfortable and welcoming event. And doing that sometimes means excluding some players.
But I will say we've been doing public play events for over 20 years, and we've had to ban people, twice, 3 times?
Yes.
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
Which
so I mean,
bad.
it's right. So I mean, like, don't let that deter you from wanting to dip your feet into trying this. It's not. It doesn't come up that often.
One potential failure that we haven't quite happened yet, although we're starting to see it as a potential, and we've been talking about solutions, is you show up at an event, you set up all your games, and you get a great turnout. And then after that event, things are missing. Parts are missing, cards are missing, cards are damaged. Is the game still going to be playable the next time after what happened to it at the event? Now, this is rarely a intentional thing, But there are, especially at some of these public events where it's not gamer focused, and you've got a lot more of the non-gaming public arriving who aren't necessarily as familiar. They're, the deck of cards that they've got at home is all dog-eared and brown cornered and roughed up because they've been dealing and shuffling their cards that way for years. And they're not maybe as gentle as you would like them to be with your cards. So the potential failure is you have damage to your games that needs to be dealt with.
With new gamers who wouldn't know how to put the game away properly if there was a cash prize on the line, right? Like they just don't have, the information isn't there in their brain. They think they're actually doing a great job cramming everything into the box, and sometimes that doesn't end so well.
Your solution to that one there is, again, if you can set expectations, like I pictured this thing where I would provide a speech at the beginning of every game night that never actually happened, but part of it would be like, treat the games as if they're your own. One of the things we're leaning towards doing is asking people not to clean up games and letting one of us take care of it. The problem with that is if we get an event with 100 people in it and we're teaching, we don't have the time to clean up those games. But like, honestly, I kind of want it to be like at a restaurant where you just leave the dishes for the server to clean up. We'll come by, we'll clean up the game ourselves to make sure, and we'll do a piece count at that time. Again, I don't think it's malicious. The other thing, though, is there's a very strong attitude for people who grew up playing board games that board games cost $10 to $15 each and aren't worth the cardboard they're printed on. There's not a lot of money. And they're just like, well, just go buy another copy. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, that's $180 game there that you spent the card on, right?
Yeah.
And there is that attitude. So I think that's part of, again, it's setting expectations, letting people know, like, maybe if it's your $180 game, when you're setting it up, make sure people know, like, hey, this is a pretty expensive hobby game that I can't replace because it was a Kickstarter and they're not doing another printing. Can you just be a little more careful? And I prefer if you don't eat while playing this one. The other thing you can do, which again, we're not great at because I hate the extra work involved, is protect your games. You can varnish your boards, you can sleeve your cards, you can coin capsule your components, and all of that fun stuff. So that's all the proactive stuff. Like, though, again, we're kind of getting more into how to stop from having a game night failure into what to do if you have one. But if you get a damaged component, it sucks. Don't, unless someone is extremely malicious to one of your games, do not expect someone to pay for ruining your game. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation at a public play event. Now, if you're playing with your friends and one of your friends like sits on the box, and then maybe you're, depending on your group dynamic, it's now, hey, here's your copy of the game. You can buy me a new one. But that's group dynamics. At a public play event, I don't think you can expect that. And that's one of the reasons we do charge to host public play events, is because we know there's going to be wear and tear on our games, and we may have to replace copies now and then. I was really close to replacing our copy of the Deadlies, but unfortunately it seemed to be out of print. So instead, I actually sat here with a damp cloth and a towel and washed every card down and then sleeved them all because that copy was looking a little ratty. Now it looks great, but it was looking a little ratty.
So Charlie Brown mentions when you've got too many people playing a game, especially if they're not all experienced with the game, that can be a fail for that group. You can have people coming out with a really bad experience and unhappy about the gaming experience they've just had if you haven't, made sure that the right people are playing the right game and with the right knowledge level. So
one of the fixes I have for that one is don't necessarily on your menu or when recommending the games, go with the numbers on the box, go with the numbers work. Many games on our menu do not list the full player count or say 3 or more players, even though technically you can play them 1 or 2, but we know they're not fun with 1 or 2. If I brought Oros out to Walkerville, I would put that it's a 4-player game, for example. So that is one small thing you can do. The other thing too is, again, is if you're the host and you notice this, remind people they don't have to finish games. Like we haven't probably mentioned that tip in 2025, but there is no obligation to finish a game you started except for the social contract you have with the people you sat down with. And if those people are willing to break that contract to restart a game, please do. Like if you're not having fun, stop and go grab something else from the table. We'd rather you're having fun.
Or restart the game that you're already playing now that everyone gets it. If something went wrong, yeah.
All right, other failures. Can we think of any other failures? Because otherwise I want to flip things around for a little bit, and I think we can wrap this up. I've asked our chat room. They didn't have any new failures. Like, I know there's other ways nights fail, and most of it is be prepared. So I'm going to switch this around. If anyone else does think of a failure they'd like us to talk about, I want to flip this around because I want to change this to the other side, because just kind of like the D&D group that expects the DM to do all the work. That's not really a fair thing. And it's really not cool. And it's the same thing with a board game night. It's not 100% on the host to entertain everyone and to make the event awesome. That's also on the people attending the event. There are, again, the social contract, what's expected of you. One of them being, which we just talked about, take care of the games. Take care of the games as if they're your own. Treat them with respect. Do not toss them as something thrown away. But there's more than that. For example, don't just sit there by yourself in a corner. Be proactive. Yes, we get it. Many gamers have social anxieties. Gaming is a social lubricant. Gaming is what makes social interaction feasible and possible for many people. That once you add that layer of a game to the event, they can now interact with other people. That's awesome. But you do need to be somewhat proactive. Don't necessarily wait for someone to bring a game to you and teach it to you. You need to at least show some initiative. Now, that initiative isn't necessarily go walk up to a stranger and can I play this game? That's great that's great if you can do that. It might just be going to the host and say, hey, which of these games would you recommend? Or, hey, do you have a list of the games and their player count? Just something to make that initial thing. If you're at one of our events, someone will get to you. Someone will find you. Someone will come over to you and say, hey, can I help you? But that's not always true, especially at a bigger event with less hosts. Again, you can't expect a team of people to be at every public play gaming event.
One of the issues that we've had a couple of times is, when I'm out there doing the sommelier role, I'll get people a game and I'll say, look, we'll have someone to teach you, but we don't have anyone right now. We got 125 people at some of our Walkerville events, and we only got 3 teachers. If 3 games have just gone out, 3 people will be our 3 teachers will be teaching. And you might have to wait a little bit. And we have had people who, got angry after waiting for 5 or 10 minutes and stormed out. And that's just not reasonable. Yes, if there's nobody else around and we're all sitting there on our phones and ignoring you, you have a reason to be upset. But if the place is packed and we're very clearly busy, have some, look around, take a feel for the vibe and realize that, oh, okay, they're going to get to me. They haven't forgotten about me. They aren't just standing around. They're just busy.
The options are the rule book's there. You can read it or you can wait patiently.
Or again, grab your phone and look up how to play. There's lots of ways to learn board games nowadays. But yeah, be patient. Like if you're at an event with lots of people, if the game you want to play is being played by another group, don't throw a temper tantrum, right? Realize that there are multiple people who want to play these games. I am not at a point in my life where I want to buy multiple copies of games just to have them available at our public play events. We'd be charging a lot more for our events and charging people to come if that was our goal, is to always have available. Like we need a board game cafe in that case, right? Not just we're hosting an event at a local bar.
Right, because what we're bringing out is our personal library. It is not a library that we have curated just for public play events, right? It's a little, and I think most people are in that. If they're running a local event, they're probably bringing out their personal game collection.
Heck, even when we go to Breakout Con and Tabs, the huge board gaming community in Toronto shows up, they still only have 1 copy of each game. So yes, have patience. That's a big thing you can do. I already recommended a couple of these, but like bring a group. Don't just show up on your own if you can, just in case, right? Like if the events can be full, like anyone who's seen our Walkerville events, like we've been hosting them for a year now, you're fine to show up on your own. You'll find people to play with. We'll find you people to play with. You're all good. But if you're going to a game night for the first time, bring a friend. So at least, bring a friend and a copy of Star Realms. That way, just in case it's not quite what you expected, you can still entertain yourselves. Read the information. Know the event you're going to. Look at the publications. Now, if it's like all you saw was the ad on the back of the stall in the washroom, you may not get a full set of details. But if there's a link, go to the link and look up so that when you do get there, you do have the right expectations going in. Most events have a description. Like you see the event on Facebook. We use Facebook groups, right? And you get the picture and it says the event, the date, and I can click going. Well, there's also a thing where you can read all about the event. And I realize some event organizers don't fill them out. Ours are pretty detailed, right? Do that research so you know what to expect before you walk in the door and not just be like, board game night, I'm going.
So Charlie Brown's brought up a few things. I'm not even sure if necessarily these are all fails, but the games are running way too late. That's definitely something where, you know, if the bar's going to close, the bar's going to close, and you are not going to stop them just because your game still needs another half hour to play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that one, what to do about it? Unfortunately, you got to stop the game. If you can, take pictures, take your camera out, take a picture of the board state, take a picture of your hand, get out your camera, take as many pictures as you can of the game. And then next time you show up to the event, get the game out and reset the board state. For some reason, people, every time I tell that to someone, they're like, oh, I never even thought of that. It's a way to save your game, right? Save your game, finish it some other time. Do not expect the bar to be open for you. That goes back on the attendee side of things. Or as the hosts, don't expect the venue to just deal with people taking their time. Let people know, again, this is proactive, like hopefully before the fail. Or if you notice this failure is about to happen, give people warnings. We always give people about a half hour heads up. It happens to work well at Walkerville because its last call is half an hour before they close, so the two kind of coincide. But then I'll go around 15 minutes later and just be like, hey, 15 minutes, you know, we got to wrap up. And then I will point out to groups who don't seem to react that, like, I do need the game packed up by then. I need the game packed up by 9. Not I need you to be done by 9. I need the game packed up by 9 will help. But I have had this failure. This one's one we have had in the Great Canadian Board Game Blitz. Be aware of your game lengths. Mm-hmm. Before starting games. Board Game Geek I find really good because Board Game Geek, the times on Board Game Geek are put there by gamers. They're not necessarily what's on the box, and they tend to be more accurate. But again, they're board gamers sitting down to play those games, not new people learning them. So you do have to like double them if you have a learning game or you have people who aren't familiar. Like if you're doing your first deck building game with someone who's never played one, Dominion is not a 45-minute game. No. So that's something, again, the host should be aware of. If you do have that sommelier, if you have a menu, make sure you put the game times on there. So you're not handing out that 3 hour, you're not giving out Hamburg when the event ends in an hour. Heck, maybe, and maybe this is something we could do a little better, start packing up those longer games as the game night goes on, like so that the game table only has left games that have enough time left to play them.
That's not a bad idea. I know I have dissuaded people from picking up certain games in the last hour because there was no way it was feasible going to happen. If you find that there's one game that just always runs long, it's just not working for that event. You know, you have a certain window. Your event's going to be 3 or 4 hours long. You know that. That game always takes too long. Don't bring it. Yeah. One of the things I've found is to go up to people and say, hey, I can see that you're not going to have enough time to finish this. And here's an okay spot to stop. Like it has, 3 seasons and, maybe it has 4 seasons. Maybe you'll stop at the third one and do this, just do that score, get to this scoring round. I suggest maybe stopping here if you're going to have to stop anyways, instead of just randomly stopping in the middle of a turn.
Now, a big one I love to see that I am so thankful every time I see it is if you're going out to a public play board gaming event and you're an alpha gamer, you're the one with the game collection, you're the one that teaches the games, do that at the event. You don't have to be invited by the host to help host, like to help teach games and to help suggest games. Share your expertise, either with the organizers or just set up your table with your favorite game, invite people to come and play. I love it when groups are self-sufficient at our events because we're now getting 100 people out. I can't manage 100 gamers myself. So it's so awesome when the group of 8 shows up with their new game they bought that week and just start playing. And then this group shows up and this couple shows up and they always start their night with Zensu. And like, I don't have to worry about them. I can focus on the new gamers and giving them the best experience they can. And then what I often do is when I get a lull, I'll go over to that big group of 8 and I'll show them something I think they'll enjoy. And I think that's one of the reasons they keep coming out to the event is I'm like, oh yeah, you guys like this style of game. Let me show you Kiss the Goblin this week. But until then, I can let them go on their own and they're self-sufficient. And I love that. As a host, it is so awesome to have a self-sustaining event while I can still welcome new people.
So Charlie Brown is saying if lighting is an issue, maybe have extra lights. And I have to say, we've thought about this before. And then once you really start thinking, okay, I'm going to bring in these lights and where am I plugging them in? Where are the plugs in this venue? Do I have permission from the venue to bring in a bunch of stuff and start plugging it in and, like using up their resources, electricity, whatever, particularly if we're just there for a free event back when we used to do free events, not when we were working with the venue to host. we've never actually ended up doing it because it just ended up just being fiddly and more problematic than it would have been helpful.
Another issue you run into is, just lights are both breakable and fragile, and they have to be on a stand somewhere that can get knocked over and people could get hurt. There are liability issues as well for that some sort of thing. So perhaps one of the reasons your event might fail is because the event is not well designed for gaming. And unfortunately, we know we have worked at venues where there are problems with the venue itself from a purely physical, accessible level as to your ability to play games there. And be aware that that is a problem. That is something that can cause your event to fail, is the fact that people are physically unable to play some of the games that they would like to play there.
Yeah, and I'm not going to call out specific venues, but honestly, it's a serious issue. And the one I was just thinking of before you went there was sound, being able to hear. And we, at one time, were hosting an event at a local place that started to double book us with live bands. The eventual answer was to stop the events. But what I did in the interim is cater the games to the venue you're going to be at. So in that case, we did not include games that needed a lot of talking. We removed games from the list that were social deduction. We removed all the ultimate vampires. We stuck to games where you don't need to talk to each other and play. At that time period, Ascension was a big deal, right? It's a deck builder. There's no real interaction. You're playing cards and defeating cards in a row, and it's multiplayer solitaire. Back then, Terraforming Mars was actually very popular for us because, again, it's a game you don't need to talk to each other. And when you do, you can be like, hey, did you see that move? And that's fine because you're not having to have a communication. You don't want to bring, say, diplomacy. The same thing for the other venue where we had lighting issues. We had to start bringing different games, like high contrast games and games with bigger icons, and stop bringing cards with small text because they weren't playable at that venue. Now, a game like Cash and Guns worked great at both those venues because the light didn't matter and neither did the sound, right? You're pointing foam guns at each other and grabbing money. So one of the things to do is make sure the games you have fit the venue you are at. And if you find that certain games aren't working, don't bring them back, right? Like that's one of the big things you can do for many of these issues is change the games you're bringing to the events and what games you're providing. And that even gets back to the problem players. If you have overly competitive players that are a problem, stop bringing overly competitive games, right? Switch to the lighter stuff, or the opposite, or provide them, bring the Steffenfelds and bring the food chain magnets to keep that group happy, whatever the case may be.
Be flexible and learn and do that post-mortem. Figure it out afterwards and think about how you could do better.
Now, Charlie Brown brings up another one here, and I'm not going to say I'm not really going to agree with him on this one. If food is going to be eaten, make sure there is enough food. This is something that's generally out of the hands of whoever's organizing the event. Most often, there will be people organizing the board game event at a venue that is handling food and drink and stuff like that.
Yes.
And the two are generally not going to be handling. Now, hopefully you are choosing venues that are able to cater to the number of people you are getting. And if they run out of food, maybe that's a discussion you can have with them. But ideally, if food and drink are going to be provided, that is probably at a business that is capable of sustaining their own business, which is food and drink.
Yeah, and to be honest, there is a venue we no longer host events at, and one of the reasons is they were not consistent with their food. People were complaining, and I'm like, well, it's on the venue, but I can't just keep running the venue. It's also on us to keep hosting events when we know that's a problem, or at least we have to change the event and say food may or may not be available.
It's really hard to tell people, I want you to show up and support the venue, and then they show up hungry and there's no food. Sometimes, half the time, maybe. Like that. That's just not a good event.
Yeah, and like I said, that part of it's choosing the right place, right? And I get it. Some of you out there live in smaller towns, or gaming's not as cool a thing, or you don't get the people out, or you don't have the public places to have these events, and you're stuck. Well, honestly, if you're stuck, having a bad event that fails multiple times is probably worse than no event at all. You're probably better just not doing it if you have that many multiple failure points. I hate to say it, but like, just because we can do a thing doesn't necessarily mean we should in some cases. And like, I mainly found that over the years with RPGs, more so than board games, but like nowadays it's a little different. But for years it was one of those, like, it's the same argument, right? It's the geek social fallacies. Like, you can you have to put up with that guy because I don't have enough players. Otherwise, no, you don't really. You might actually be better off not playing. And the same thing goes with a mismatched venue or mismatched expectations. If you keep getting people coming out to your events that are ruining your games and just don't take anything seriously, maybe you are hosting the wrong type of event for those people. All right, I think that pretty much covers our thoughts on this. The big thing. And I hate saying it because I feel like I'm sitting in a business meeting, but it's be proactive, plan ahead, set expectations. It's all the stuff we say. We've been doing this podcast for 6 years now, and we say the same thing all the time. It's all about setting expectations and then meeting those expectations. It really is. Make sure you're advertising. Make sure people know about your event. But the thing is, when things do go wrong, don't take it personally. Sit down and figure out what went wrong. What was wrong? Was it a missed expectation? Was it the wrong games? Was it the wrong crowd? Was it the wrong place? Was it the wrong time? Was it anything that you can even control? And especially if you can't control it, definitely don't take it seriously. Just slush it off. The next thing is just don't give up. Learn from every event you host, whether it fails or not. You'll probably learn more from the failures, but we learn just as much at a great event. What did we do this week that it went so much better? What did we do right? Don't be discouraged. Gaming events are awesome. Having people out, the goal of all of us is to get people together at the table together playing games. If we get that to happen, it's never a complete failure.
Now, not every gaming event is going to go perfectly. The key is not to let that ruin the fun of gaming for you and everyone else in the community. Learn from your mistakes. Do something to improve it so they don't happen again. Consider every event like a new round. Build on what you have and try to do even better.
Now, what I want for those of you listening and watching this are any tips you may have for dealing with game event failures. Or better yet, how about things you do to make sure your events don't fail? What is things we could be doing more of? Let us know in the comments. Fire off an email to Mo or Deanna at tabletopbellhop.com. Hit us up on social media, or we keep posting it. Start a thread on our Discord. And if you do want to hear about local Windsor, Ontario, Windsor, Detroit events, our Discord is the place to be. If you're still on Facebook, there's a group called the Windsor Gaming Resource. And then we can also point you to other Discords if you're looking for, say, specifically story games, if you're looking for miniature war gaming, we can hook you up. But the main place to start, honestly, like our Discord, go there, start a thread, check out the local events section.
There's also a page I made relatively recently on the blog. If you go to tabletopbellhop.com/local, that'll give you the calendar of local events.
And now, a see you later message from our longtime sponsor, Grand Gamers Guild.
All right, unfortunately, due to the current economic situation driven by the current U.S. government, Marc, along with every other publisher out there, has been forced to become very, very careful about spending and have no idea what to expect from the future. So kind of need to hold back. So right now, Grand Gamers Guild currently has 3 outstanding crowdfunded projects. And the Guild holds their obligations to the people that made those a reality in the highest regard. They come first. And I fully understand this. This makes perfect sense. They are more obligated to those people than anyone else. And I fully support them doing what they have to do to fill those projects and any upcoming.
Marc and the Grand Gamers Guild have a very happily sponsored the Tabletop Bellhop for the last year and a bit. But this will be the last sponsored message for a while. Note that this is not a goodbye, and that it's a see you again soon, as Marc would like to return as a sponsor when things are a little less chaotic.
Now, Marc has been generous enough to continue our Bellhop discount code until the end of May, so you've got the rest of this month. And honestly, we strongly encourage you to take advantage of this, especially now. You just have to enter Bellhop, BELLHOP, at checkout at Grand Gamers Guild on anything. Any purchase, your full cart, you're going to get 10% off your entire order. Plus, this isn't a one-time, you know how some people we have, a one-time code, you can only use it once. You can use Marc's code, Bellhop, our code with Marc, any number of times. If you decide like, oh, I bought Endangered. Oh, you know what? I'm going to get the new species expansion. A little while later, you're like, you know what I'd really like is the promos. You can use that code until the end of the month.
This is not only a good way to support us, but also helps Marc out by putting money in the Grand Gamers Guild coffers to help them weather the current tariffs and the ongoing trade war.
Yeah, this is really the best way I think that you can help small publishers right now is by purchasing directly off their website. So if you dig Grand Gamers Guild and the games that they make, which we certainly do, go and buy direct at their site in the next little while.
Yeah, honestly, that applies to all publishers, not just Marc. Like the best thing you can do right now to support your favorite board game publishers is buying direct. That's going to be a way to perhaps keep those costs down. And I got to say, yes, it's awesome. Grand Gamers Guild sponsors the show, and we love Marc, and we had him on the show, and Marc's a great guy, and he was the first to step up and actually offer. We didn't even ask him. Long before that, though, we were enjoying his games. We really do like Grand Gamers Guild games. We were talking about him long before Marc showed up, and I still say Gorento is one of the best abstract strategy games ever published. Fantastic table presence. I love the way the game makes me think. It's even better with some of the expansions. It's just a fantastic game, and our family has had so much fun with the Holiday Hijinks series. Unfortunately, due to not feeling good, we didn't get the Easter one in. It just didn't fit with everything else going on, but we're actually going to save it till next year so we can play it closer to Easter. And Endangered has been fantastic. We're still exploring the new species box. Saving the Turtles last week was a ton of fun. And we love exploring the stars with the Artemis series. He's got other games, but those to me are the top, right? Gorento, Holiday Hijinks, Endangered, and the Artemis games are my recommendations from Grand Gamers Guild. Endangered
sticks out to me because it's a co-op game that I don't mind, that our daughter, who hates co-op games, actually asks for and loves and has it listed on as one of her favorite games.
While we're sad to see Marc and the guild go, we fully understand that they are what they are going through and wish them the best of luck in navigating this uncertain time.
Now that Marc is no longer with us, this does leave us, honestly, with an opening for a new sponsor. So yes, we know times are tough. We get it. If you are a publisher who sells mainly in the U.S., I'm certain you're struggling, and we feel for you. Things are chaotic, and we really don't know what the future holds. Next week, next month, who knows, the next year. And that applies to the whole gaming industry. But that said, if you are a designer, a publisher, an online game store in the industry at all, and are interested in sponsoring the show, we would love to talk to you. You got to hear for the last year and a half our support of Marc and what we've done with him. If any of that appeals to you, if there's some other way we can work together, we would love to support you and have you support us.
If you are interested, please email Deanna at tabletopbellhop.com for info and rates. Welcome to the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we talk about the games we've been playing lately. Also, welcome back to Gwendolyn, Mo and Dee's daughter, who's going to join us for this segment to talk about the events she helped us out with, as well as the games she's been playing.
Hello again.
So recently, we hosted our monthly Brews and Board Games event at the Walkerville Brewery, which went really well. It was actually our 1-year anniversary hosting the event, which is pretty awesome. I wasn't sure this event was going to last 3 months when we started, and here we are a year later and still going strong with no plans at all to end anytime soon. I'm hoping we'll have this event going 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now.
Well, thank you to all the local fans who keep coming out to support both us and the venue. We've made some new friends, as well as love seeing familiar faces from other events we've hosted across the city.
And we are always excited to see new gamers out. We still have room. We're packing the place, but there was still 2 full empty tables we could have sat people at if you just come out. Now, I will say the last one was actually super packed. I said, literally, I'm not joking. We had 2 tables left at the peak point in the night that weren't taken up by people, which is awesome. But this one was just oddly chill, and I kind of loved it. There were lots of people doing their own thing, and it didn't feel like I was Stretch Armstrong getting pulled this way and that, and being like, okay, when you're done teaching this game, you got to go teach this one. Okay, and while you're teaching this one, these people have a question. Okay, wait, can you stop teaching that for a minute? Because these people are stuck. And oh, well, just grab Gwen. Oh, Gwen's being over there, and Dee's over there. It just didn't feel like that. So it was pretty awesome. It was a much more chill event. And it wasn't the fact that people were not bothering us. They were engaged and having fun. And because of that, I actually played full games at the last event, which is rare. That's not something I expect to do at our events. So the games I played started off with a game of Blank Slate from the Op. And I played it last year, like 2 years ago now at Gamma Expo, and I was just like, this is a game that would probably go over pretty well anywhere that there's like a big group of people gathering together who aren't sure what they want to do, and it's great for people who don't really know each other. And I'm like, man, I should pick up a copy, and I never did. And then we went to Gamma, and I got to play it again at the Ops Special closing party, and I got to win the copy from our table, and I'm so glad I brought it home from Gamma Expo. Like, I'm so glad I won the game. Should have bought it somewhere in the year in between, because man, is it a big hit. Like, it is a regular at our public play event. I can't see ever not bringing this. We're going to be hosting a new event at a new venue coming up. Blank Slate's going to be in the box. Like that is definitely one of the games that is going to be out there.
Yeah, so I know you said you had a lot of time to play different games. I also had a bit of time, but I didn't end up actually playing any games at all. But I did teach a lot of games. From what I remember, I taught the usual Psychobabble, Drop It, Zensu, Panda Royale, Catch the Moon, Deadlies, a whole lot of other games. As well as, I think it was the first time I've taught Mackie Master at a public play event, so that was fun.
Yeah, it was really interesting, the dynamic, because it kept feeling like we weren't full. It wasn't a fail, but it kept feeling like we just weren't pulling it in. And then you walk around and went, oh wait, no, there's a lot of people. Why doesn't it feel as full? And that was a weird vibe for the event.
Yeah, and there was actually a couple that was playing a game on the bar, and the whole, because the bar is open to the public, and not everyone that shows up is playing games. And there's an area that honestly is the best lit part of the bar that's up by the bar, and that was actually filled with gamers. There's 3 long tables there, and those were people playing games too. It was awesome. Heck, there was one group there that I thought were just people there drinking, and then I went by and I'm like, oh, they're playing a game. They brought their own games. I didn't even talk to these people, and I sat down and introduced myself, and then they didn't realize that they could play the games on the table. And I'm like, no, everything over there. And they're like, oh wow, see, we thought everyone brought their games. And I'm like, man, it'd be awesome if there were enough gamers in Windsor to have each brought their own games. The community is not quite at that point yet. For me, the one thing I did play a lot was Clask, because the easiest way to teach that game is sit down and play with someone, because it's quick enough, at least for a couple points. But what was funny about Clask is I'm like, now that I've had it out to a couple different events, and this is still the best thrift store find I've ever had, because Clask is not a cheap game, and I got it for $6. And when I bought it, it had bits of wrapping paper on it, tape with wrapping paper. So whoever donated it, got it as a gift and gave it away. But what I've noticed is the blues starting to wear a bit in front of the goals, and not in a bad way. It doesn't look shabby or anything. It just, now the game looks played. But I got to say, we haven't owned it that long. So I have to say, whoever got that, you should be ashamed you donated that right away. Because obviously I got a completely unplayed copy of Clask. I think what's going to be interesting is I have a feeling that it's going to just develop a patina over time from the rubbing, and it'll become shiny. The only problem with this game, and this is a problem that is because of our venue, because it is a brewery, and because they have to wash down the floors. The floor is not level. It very seriously has a grade to it that goes to a grate, so they can wash the floor in the brewery. And the tables are not very level because of this. So playing Clask at Walkerville has an added difficulty of the ball will slant to one of the two sides while playing. But honestly, when you're playing, you compensate for that, right? It's not pool. It's not a game of precision. So I think it works all right.
Yeah, at this point, I had actually still never played Clask before, but whenever this game is brought out at public events, it always looks super fun when others play it.
Yeah, and this game is one of these games where people sit down and play it and play it and play it and play it. They play, through the game, one person wins, and then you reset the score and start over again, and then reset the score and start over again. It's just a really good game. It reminds me of air hockey. If you set up an air hockey table somewhere, people will sit there and play the game. And this is very much like that, but without the loud hum of the air hockey table.
Last one I actually played was the Deadlies. One of the things that happens at our event, we often get people there, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm assuming it's mainly social anxiety, or they're not staying with strangers, or maybe they're just very Canadian and polite and don't want to bother anyone. I'm not sure which it is, but people often show up and like, no, we don't need to be taught. We can learn on our own. And like my argument to those people is, please do. That's why we're there. Like, that's why we bring 4 people. That's why we bring 3 people that can bring games. That's why I do a curated menu, making sure every game on there, someone knows how to teach. But they don't want to accept the help. So what I usually end up doing with those groups is trying to subtly insert myself and able to facilitate their fun. Like, if they seem to be struggling, I'll watch for mistakes. I'm like, oh, I think you misunderstood that. Do this different. With the Deadlies and a group that had grabbed the game, I literally sat down and joined them. And all I did was I said, this game's better with more players. Do you mind if I join you? And then was able to like, oh, okay, yeah, well, here's why I'm doing this, or here's how this card works, or, you don't have to look that up. I know that this. So, sometimes there's a little social engineering going on there, but it was pretty good because by the time we finished the first round, we played one full round. They ended up loving the game and then played the rest of the night and then invited someone else to join their table and taught it to them. And I was like, that was almost like I want to say proud dad moment, but like, I'm not their dad. It wasn't my kids. It was just like this table I taught the Deadlies to.
Yeah, so Deadlies always goes really well at public play events. I think I also taught it to a group while I was there, although they did ask for a teach. And at the beginning, everyone for that game, we need to stop calling it Uno for gamers because everyone wants to play off of the last person what they've played. Yes. Like, I'm like, it's a good description, but it makes people think that they have to like play on suit. And I'm like, no, your turn is like separate from everyone else's. It's the only problem.
To know.
See, and that was one of the things this group I taught was actually doing wrong. That they wanted to, but what's the matter? And I'm like, what's on the discard doesn't matter. And what I ended up doing was flipping the discard and telling them start discarding to the box. And then when they're done, that way the discard wasn't even there for them to see because people were focusing on that. They're like, well, if the last card played was purple, don't I have to play purple? No. So I was like, no, we're going to do a face down discard. Which honestly, I don't know which way the rulebook specifies. I've always played face up just because that's what I expect discards to be in card games. But yes, that is definitely a thing. And yes, Uno for gamers, Uno on crack, whatever you want to call it, Chaos Uno is good because it's definitely a void your hand game. You're trying to get down to 0 cards and you're trying to screw your neighbors. But yeah, it may not be the best description. Maybe you're like, I don't know, it's Uno for gamers, but you don't have to follow the discards or something. Like there's got to be a better way to present it.
Or just let us teach you.
Yes. Next up was something brand new for us. It was called Sakura Anime Fest. It was hosted at St. Clair College in their esports nexus, which, my gosh, like, man, has school ever changed? This e-gaming setup, like they have professional teams and like esports kind of blows me away as a thing. This was an anime manga, somewhat pop culture con. From what I understand, this is the 4th year, but it's the first time I've heard about it. They invited us out to host their board game area. This was the same place. Now, if you go back a few episodes, quite a few episodes, we talked about the summoning. This was about half the physical space as the summoning, where summoning had all of St. Clair's like plaza area, open student area. This was just the esports nexus. I thought it was pretty well organized by something literally put on by college students. I don't even think any of their professors were there. Yes, I'm sure some of the people involved were doing these for marks and projects. While we didn't have much space, I got to say our area was fairly popular. There was a 3-hour window. We were there for an extended period of time, but there was a 3-hour window where we were packed. But then there was lots of downtime before that and lots after. I think it went pretty well. There were a few improvements we could have done. One of the things I think that would have helped is something that said that the games on display were part of a library, like something like Tabletop Bellhop Game Library. I think we had a lot of people go by because there were vendors and we were in a hallway with vendors that thought the games were for sale. And yes, we did a great job. Actually, Gwen in particular did a great job of greeting everyone who even looked at the games and say, hey, these are free to play and you earn tickets. But we could have advertised that a little bit better.
Yeah, it was like, someone looked at the games. I've got to walk over, tell them, hey, you could actually play these. It was just like anytime I saw someone go and I was like, hello, we're actually, you can play these. And it was just like, come down here. At the beginning, we also had, like, it was a little bit harder to get down to our area. There was like one staircase, and from some angles, it like was kind of hard to figure out where the staircase was. So I feel like we also weren't getting people because of that.
Yeah, I think we were definitely sort of an extra and not a focus for the event. Though, due to their raffle system, there were times we could have used more tables because people were looking for ways to collect those tickets to get into the raffles, and playing games was a great way to get those tickets. But then as we were in the same area as where the cosplay competition was taking part, essentially once that cosplay competition started, games were unplayable because the lights went down, the sound went up, and, everyone was, taking up all the tables to watch the cosplay competition.
Yeah, overall, I think it was a pretty good event. If they're willing to have us next year, I'd be happy to do it again. I would probably recommend or request a larger area, or maybe a few more tables, or maybe be in a different area if they could set us up in a different area. Because there were definitely like halls that had trading card gaming going on. We might have fit better down there. But anyway, I was happy with the event. I think it went well. During downtime of the event, we did play some games because there were definitely big windows of no one's looking at the games. They're busy with their own thing. First amusing one is one of the games I wanted to bring was Millennium Blades because it really fits the theme in multiple ways because it's an anime inspired thing. It's very much based on Yu-Gi-Oh as well and the other card gaming animes. But also this was a TCG tournament space, and this is in a Euro game about competing in a TCG tournament. And I just thought it was like the ultimate game that fit this universe, like this particular event. The problem is I remembered setup was bad, but my gosh, is setup bad. It is terrible. There are too many cards in this. I need to find a way to organize this game better. So the first game we played for over an hour was organized Millennium Blades. I almost want to mark that as we played the game in board game stats because we played it for an hour but didn't actually play.
Yeah, we were going through the box. We were sorting through hers. It was like, we need 2 more sets with the name, and it was like there's 2 sets with dragon. Is it this dragon? Is it that dragon? Is it a gold card? Is it? And it was very, very chaotic. And at one point we were like, oh, we got all of them, and then there was one missing. We were like, where did it go? And it got put back into the box, and then we had to try and find that again. It was the worst.
Yeah, the fact that the box can't hold dividers that stick up above the cards to actually separate things just seems like a horrible design choice for a card that is this focused on groups of cards.
Yeah. And it didn't help that I love this game and I own the base game and I think 5 expansions and they're all mixed in. And what we probably should have done is just made a deck to play instead of going, I haven't played this in forever. Sean's never played. Gwen's never played. Let's use the recommended starting sets. We should have just went, we need 5 of this color here. We found 5. We need 3 of this color. We found 3. But anyway, we can't talk about the gameplay because we never actually got to play the game because by the time we finally had everything set up, people showed up and they weren't at all interested in playing Millennium Blades at all. It obviously was not the draw I thought it would be. The popular games tended to be the lightest possible games, and people were asking for the quickest games because they wanted tickets. Now, partway through the night, I thought another thing that might draw people in is maybe if we set up games and play them, we'll get people to want to play. And another game that I packed specifically for this event because it's based on Japanese maid culture is Tanto Kore. And we played that expecting the same thing. If we're playing, people will come over and be like, oh, what are you playing? Oh, it's about maid culture. That's awesome. Trust me, there were some maids walking around in cosplay that would have fit perfect for playing this game. But no, that didn't work. But you know what? Sean and Gwen got to experience the joy that is Tanto Kore, which I still say is the Dominion killer. It came out the year after Dominion and is a much better game. But it does have a unique theme that's not going to be for everyone.
Compared to having just tried Dominion, I actually definitely preferred this because I love that it had the changing market and the addition of the tableau where you could put cards for scoring later. And also the special cards that stayed up as a permanent action, which I thought was a really great feature of the game.
Yeah, it's a shame that the theme is potentially confusing and concerning to some people because were it not for the theme, this would be the Dominion killer. I mean, Dominion's was a great game, but the static market has a place and it gets a little tired, even with the vast number of Dominion expansions that exist. The flexibility of Tanto Kore's shifting market really makes it a stronger, better game if you can get over the theme of what it is the game is about.
Yeah, and to be fair, we only have the base set. Tanto Core may have gotten even better. There are tons of expansions out, and it's currently celebrating an anniversary. You can find the game at Japanime Games. They are the publisher of the game, and I think it's well worth checking out. I honestly wish I'd seen an evolution. Like, there should have been a Dominion to Tanto Core to something else, right? Because, like, you have Dominion to Ascension, which led to Star Realms, right? Like, there's a progression that way. I wish I got to see what could have evolved from Tanto Core, because I really did like it. Like, it's Dominion, which is that little bit more. Next, Gwen noted earlier she hadn't played Clask. Well, we fixed that at the Sakura Anime Fest, and that was one where definitely that was one that worked. We played, and as soon as we played, other people were like watching, and then they played, and then that became the game to play to get tickets because it was over so quick and people seemed to enjoy it. I'll let you talk about that before I mention the next one.
Yeah, so it was, as Vidal just mentioned, my first time trying Clask. It was very fun, but mainly I was honestly just happy to be able to teach it now, since it does get played a lot at public play events, as well as, honestly, I might bring it to Board Game Club. It's just a little bit big to carry with me to school, which is the only problem with me bringing it there. Because I'm like, I think people would like it, but do I want to carry Clask with me? Very fun, though.
And then I played a ghost in Pac-Man Corridor. Pac-Man Corridor, we are going to be talking about later in the show. Mainly played a ghost for one of those again. People were like, we can figure it out. And we were playing Tanto Core, and I'm like, they've been trying to figure out Pac-Man Corridor for more than 5 minutes. In more than 10 minutes. Okay, like 15 minutes that this isn't going well. The game's not that complicated. So I walked over and said, hey, you know this game, like you have 4U, it's way better with 5 so that everyone plays a different ghost. Do you mind if I play a ghost? Okay, here, let me just set up the board. Okay, so Pac-Man, it's your go. You get to move too. Remember, you can't move diagonal, right? So I kind of, again, inserted myself, social engineered it so that I ended up teaching the game, which once I did that, it was very popular. And once they got it, one of their friends joined, and I let them take over the ghost I was playing and went back to Tanto Core. And I got to say, because it did get busy while we were playing Tanto Core, that was the longest game of Tanto Core ever. Now, near the end, when things had died down, the cosplay contest was over. Our area was filled with people waiting for anime trivia to start, and a bunch of the vendors had started packing up. I took the time to teach Gwen and Sean how to play harmonies. Teach it, maybe and Sean. Sorry, Sean, Gwen, and I to play harmonies. Gwen had played before. Harmonies is awesome, but man, great game. And I'm glad Sean will be able to actually take part in the review because I've gotten to play this one.
Mm-hmm. It is a very fun game. As was already said, it was my second time playing, and it was just as fun, if not better, now that I understand the rules.
Yeah, it's a super solid game, easy to pick up if you've got any hobby gaming experience whatsoever. You do need to pay attention to those scoring cards as the layouts are required to be exact, but that was really the only kind of gotcha that popped up as we were playing that I can think of.
That night, to decompress after the con, Dee and I went out to relax, have a couple drinks. We ended up in an awesome local place called the Cookie Bar. You've heard us talk about that recently, and played a couple 2-player games. One was Corridor Pac-Man. First playing Corridor, and then playing the Pac-Man version. And I got to say Corridor, like just Corridor is a great game. It's a great abstract strategy game. The Pac-Man set's awesome in that you get base Corridor and everything you need to play base Corridor with cool pieces. Then we played some Hive. We finally used the pill bug. Man, the pill bug's weird. Board Game Geek and other people I've seen talking about the pill bug are right. Its ability is to pick up a piece next to it and put it down somewhere else adjacent to the pill bug. And man, does that add a lot to the decision tree, like a new level to the game. Thoughts on it seem very mixed. Like the one thing it definitely does is it messes with some long time existing strategies, which I think is a good thing. I think that was the intention of this, was to break some of the, set moves and set openings, but it also made the game longer and harder to win. And kind of what I want out of Hive is a thinky quick game. And this just became thinky. So I don't know. I'm totally on the fence on the Hive. I don't even know if there's a bug term I can put in there, but yeah, it made it different is probably the best I can say about the Pillbug expansion. Ladybug I liked. Ladybug is 2 over the hive, 1 down. Mosquito I love. Pillbug is a little strange.
Yeah, I've only ever played Hive once, and it was not with any of the expansions. It was just like base Hive. But I think based on that experience, being able to like pick up and move pieces would definitely be an odd experience.
Next, we get to some Easter gaming. As you can tell, we missed a week here, so we're going back a bit. Starting at Brenda's, because it was Easter, the kids didn't have school, so we actually then brought it back here and played some games here. At Brenda's, Gwen asked to play Junk Art. This is one we brought to Sakura Anime Fest. She was super curious about. I love this game. It's in my opinion, one of the best dexterity games on the market. And that's mainly because it's a whole bunch of different dexterity games in one box, right? It's a toolbox. It's a set of colored shapes and a deck of cards where there's one card that matches each shape and then a bunch of different mini games you can use. Normally you draw 3 random cities. We were playing a 4-player game, so the kids insisted we each do a starting city. Every game we played was about building the tallest structure, but there was a nice mix. There was a real-time round. There was one that was definitely hate drafting, where you picked what other players had to build. There was another one where you got extra things if you match colors and shapes. And there was even one that was a trick-taking game, which I don't remember that being in Junk Art. So it's possible I never played that city, where you literally played cards in a trick, and whoever had the highest number collected the cards and then gave them out. So it also had that hate drafting where you're being super mean to the player leaders. Like, seriously, Junk Art's amazing. You know what keeps it on my shelf? The fact it's in a silly wooden box that doesn't look and doesn't say Junk Art, so I never think of it. When I'm walking around my game room going, what do I want to play? Junk Art fails in its silly box.
I will say, before I say what I thought of it, I agree with the box, because there is a second game we own with the exact same box. And when trying to find Junk Art for Sakura Anime Fest, I just kept spotting the same other box and be like, oh, no, I didn't. Anyways, I did really like it. I love the like multi-round with the different rules mechanics. I think that's honestly the only sort of game like that I've ever played for like manual decks, like one that has a whole bunch of different mechanics in it. I have actually been bringing this game to Board Game Club every single week since I played it on Easter weekend, and no one has chosen it yet. I'm the only one who's voted to play that game. So I'm hoping maybe next week we'll end up playing it at Board Game Club.
Yeah, so I played Junk Art once long ago. I hate it. I am not a dexterity game fan in general, and that one in particular, I found I despised. I do see why fans of dexterity games would like it, though, so I totally understand that. Mm-hmm. My only concern about Walkerville is the piece losing, making sure everything is contained and gets back at the end of the game. That's something we're definitely going to have to worry about if we bring it out to Walkerville.
Yeah, because that is definitely one where you tend to build until something falls. I don't know. On the biggest tables possible, with not the ones down the one edge where the benches are, where stuff can go underneath. Maybe we limit the game to one half of the venue. You're like, you can play, but you got to play over there. At Brenda's, we get the first new to us game on the list. This is something we brought home from Gamma Expo. It's Emerald Skulls from Thunderworks Games. Thank you, Jess, for the review copy. This is a mashup of a push your luck dice rolling game, and with its own unique mechanics, and a real-time betting game happening at the same time. A lot of people are calling this game craps for gamers, and I think it probably fits better than Uno for gamers, because this really kind of is craps for gamers. You are rolling dice while the other players, the person with the dice is rolling, playing their own game, while everyone else is betting on the results. This is set in the role player universe. Thematically, it's the dice game the goblins play that involve placing dice on a skull. In the game, you get a board. Jess was awesome enough to hook us up with a neoprene mat, which is awesome. Bonus for the neoprene mat, it also plays a completely other game from them, so I'm going to have to pick up that game so that I can use both sides of the mat. Also good marketing, I guess. It's pretty simple. You start with 3 dice. You are trying to collect gears. You spend gears to buy more dice. You then roll them, and you have to place one set of matching numbers at a time, and then you can roll whatever's left and place another set, but the second set you place has to be at the same level or higher. And again, you're doing this on a skull, but that part doesn't really matter. You're placing 1s or 2s or 3s or 4s or 5s. There's some placement rules once you get up in the 4s and 5s. You just keep going until you place all your dice, which I forget what it's called. It's called something out, rolling out or something. You can chicken out, which is, I'm happy with where my dice are now. I'm going to keep some in hand and just chicken out. Or you can bust. You rolled and the numbers you rolled aren't higher than anything that's on the board, so you're stuck. At the same time you're doing this, other players are betting on how well it'll go. There's a pool of money, and when it runs out, the player with the most points wins. Neat game. Sounds super light. I'm pretty sure the way I described it is pretty much how it was described to me, and I was like, that sounds awesome, especially for Walkerville. This will be great. The problem is, I found this problem. I played this at Gamma Expo, Jess taught it, and this was reinforced to me when playing it with my family, is it's heavier than that. There's more thinking and more going on. The push your luck game is just a little fiddly, because there are rule exceptions. Like if you roll a skull, it's wild, but you can't just play skulls. There's limits. Like on the 4s, you can only play 2. They fill the 2 eyes. Well, the nose on the graphic looks like you can only fit 1, but you can fit any number of 3s. And then there's weird rules about being able to pick the nose, where you can pick up a 3 you rolled before to get extra dice. And then there's like snot tokens that you generate that you can spend to reroll. And it's all kind of fiddly. And then betting is surprisingly obtuse until you see it in action. Because it's not you're betting, are they going to bust or not? Yes, that's one of the bets is yes, they're going to bust. No, they're not. But the rest are all weird. Like there's this one that's like the smile. And if the player rolls all their dice and places them only on teeth, you're going to get a bonus. And then there's these jackpot cards that totally change the scoring for the person rolling the dice. So the whole problem is that there's a learning curve to a game that doesn't feel like it should be. Like if you walk up to a craps table, they can explain it pretty simple. They're trying to roll 7 or 11. Meanwhile, you're betting on what they roll, and the table just shows all the different possible rolls, right? Like odds or evens or whatever. It's pretty simple. This is not. So both first plays I've had is this game. So the first time I played it, the first time I taught it, it just got off to a rough start. Like it took a while for people to find the fun. But once everyone gets it, once everyone's rolled the dice once everyone's seen the different bets pay off, it ends up awesome. And it becomes this laugh out loud, push your luck betting game where part of the betting is almost like a slap game. And you have these like slabs you put down to represent your bet. And people are trying to get theirs down before someone else. And they get stacked in order. So the first person that makes the bet pays off more. And you get this, like when you're the person rolling, you're like, place your bets. And there's even a mechanic there where you can roll whenever you want. And as soon as you roll, people can't bet anymore. So you might roll really quick to stop them. And you got people who are like, I'm going to make a sure bet. And they're certain. And then it doesn't pay off. And like, oh, or you get that chance where you actually roll. I can't remember what it's called. I'm going to call it the golden skull, where you actually fill everything. You got 5 dice and you filled every spot and it pays off a huge amount. And there's actually like strategy. So like if you're the person rolling the dice and you look at where everyone's bet and you're like, well, yeah, I might not get much, but if I chicken out, no one's bets pay off. I'm going to chicken out just to screw everyone else. And I'm like, the fact that's there is awesome. And there's like almost like a Euro game feel here. But like, do I want a Euro game in my Gamers Craps, or do I just want like a laugh out loud, fun, toss the dice and people are placing bets? So I don't know. I don't know where I am on this game. And at this point, I've only used the basic set of 4 betting cards. There's an entire deck of advanced cards you're supposed to use, which is going to make the learning curve worse. Like this fits in our games that aren't quite what you expected, or the missed expectations. Like what I expected was this fast rolling, quick, super easy to learn dice chucking game with betting. And instead I've got this like kind of cool strategy, but has betting. And I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, when you explained it, I was like, oh, this makes sense. I can't play this. What? And it was just like sort of very confusing at the beginning. It was hard to learn. And once you understand it, it's simple. You're just like, oh, they rolled the dice and you bet. But when you're first learning, it's like they've rolled the dice, but the dice go in specific spots, but there's also things and yeah. And I also had to get used to how quick and real-timey the betting was. And I kept trying to overthink it. I am very much known for AP, and I would sit there and be like, well, if they roll this, then... And so go through like every single option, run out of time, and have not placed a bet, which is not good.
Yeah, this one is interesting. And one thing I see a lot of people saying is it's really better at the highest player counts. And there's even an expansion for this game that allows you to play at 7 and 8 players. And so you should try and get it at the table with somebody with that 6-player count or 5-player count at the next event if you can, and see how it plays with that big table, because that seems to be the sweet spot right now.
Yeah, part of me, what I almost want to do is I'm like, I want to transport my family and play it with 4 people and have them watch us. Like, I honestly think the best way to learn this game would be to watch a round of people playing and then sit down and take the spots like you might do at a casino, right? Where you're like watching everyone, seeing how they do and how the players bet, and then be like, okay, now I get it. I'm going to sit down and play. Because it's going to take me a bit. Like, every game I teach, I eventually refine my teach to get better and better based on every experience. Well, I haven't figured out a good way. Like, based on how I taught it last time, I have not come up with a better way to teach it next time to make it easier to learn. Like, I just haven't figured it out, except for the fact I just kind of want people to watch me play. Like, I want to be there with Gwen so the two of us can teach it, so I can be rolling while she's betting and we're both explaining what we're doing or something.
So the next time that any games got played was actually at Board Game Club, not this week, but last week. We had lots of people, so we split up into 2 groups. One group was playing Flip 7, and the other group played Dubious. I was with the Flip 7 group because there were only 2 people who wanted to play, and they needed a 3rd player to be able to play. We actually played the game twice. I don't remember who won the first time, but I won the second time. Both the other people had played the game before, and they still love it. I don't think they would have asked to play it again if they didn't like it the last time they played. When we did finish, though, Dubious was still going on. So I sort of like watched that game, was like going around the table and like, oh, what are you guessing? And just like being ominous and like looking at what everyone was guessing, what everyone's roles were. It was actually the modern scenario, which I myself have not had a chance to play yet. So I felt a little bit betrayed that they played it without me. But it was still really fun.
And officially announced today by the op, Flip 7 is now available everywhere. It was out for a little while there, Walmart exclusive. I think it was for 1 month. Should be everywhere. Should be at your local game stores. If it's not at your local game store, go and slap them and say, why don't you have Flip 7? They can order it direct from the op. It should be on Amazon, should be on all the online game stores. So Flip 7 should be available. And I do have to say congratulations to everyone who got a free copy, because for one day there, the op was just like, if you want a copy, order it. We'll get it to you. Free shipping. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of jealous I'm in Canada, because that's a game we could use a second copy for at Walkerville. And that's what I would have used it for. Up next, a solo game, which I don't do too often. It was 20 Strong, which I played in the Devonshire Mall food court. This one comes from Chip Theory Games. If you know Chip Theory Games, they are a big company that makes big games with a lot of weight in multiple ways, with the best components on the market, pretty much. Chip Theory did give us a copy of this when we were at Origins. We were looking for some bigger games, like, let's see what you do with this one. So fair enough. This is solo only game, uses 20 dice. That's where the name of 20 Strong comes from. Every game you play with it is 20 dice, and the 20 Strong box, is meant to be a game system. It is a set of components. It is the dice, one of their chips and a chip holder, and a set of generic rules that apply to any set you play with. Now, the starter deck comes with one deck. The starter box comes with one deck of cards for a game called Solar Sentinels. This is I originally was calling this Aliens. It's not Aliens, it's Starship Troopers. It really is Starship Troopers. It's waves and waves of bugs and sci-fi heroes with big guns to fight off those bugs, eventually getting through enough waves of bugs to fight the brain bug, right? Like the big final boss. Now, that particular deck includes specific rules on how to play Solar Sentinels. And the way it works is if you pick up another deck, you're still using the same 20 dice, the same chip, and the same chip holder, and the same basic mechanics, but you will have a totally different game. I've only played Solar Sentinels, so I can't tell you anything about the other ones. Now, the goal of this one is defeat one random boss, but first you have to get through waves of bugs. Advanced rules exist where you have to complete missions, and if you don't, you have to face extra bugs. Mechanically, though, the way the game works, and this is the same in all of the 20 Strong, is you are going to take your deck and split it into 3 decks of cards face up with adversaries to face. Each round, you choose one card from the top of one deck to face, and then if there's certain symbols, you're going to go off the card text, and many of those are going to add more bugs. You then choose any dice out of your 20 dice and roll them and assign hits to your cards. Like you can grab all 20 of your dice the first round. To be fair, only 17 get rolled. 3 are actually your stats, but whatever. You can grab all 17 dice and roll them all. And they're different colored, and different colored dice have different number of hits. Then you put hits on the monsters. If it's more than their health, you defeat them. That gets rid of their special effects that are in play. Then when you defeat them, you might get a reward. They might be items you can hold on to, and you have a stat for how much you can hold, or you can spend them right away to do things. And then anyone that's still alive, you take damage for whoever's left. Then all the monsters wipe. But then every dice you use gets exhausted and removed from play. Then you only get a very small amount back based on one of your 3 stats. The character I was playing, it was 2 dice back. Eventually, I leveled that up once to get it up to 3 dice back. If you run out of dice, you lose the game. So you are trying to do this dice management thing. You then go again, right? You lived, you now pick another deck to go through another one. And you keep doing this. And then in this particular game, you have to deplete one pile, and then you can choose to fight the boss. The neat part is you don't have to. Like, you might want to continue to explore the decks to get power-ups or whatever, or get items. When you do fight the boss, they're going to bring extra minions along with them. And if you defeat the boss, you win. It's interesting. It's fiddly, but it's solo game fiddly, if that makes sense, like as a classification for you. Like Friday is a great solo game, but it's kind of fiddly. You're tracking various different things. You're using components. In this case, it's using dice. It's going to take a few more plays before the game feels smooth. System seems simple enough. I did not try missions. Missions are something they tell you to leave in the box, so I did. The hard part, though, is like I couldn't figure out why some of the card effects existed. So I don't know. I was missing something. So I think that'll just come from playing games. Like I looked up FAQs and I didn't see anyone else having the problem I had. So maybe I just need to reread the rule book. The big thing, though, that's really nice in this is the component quality. Like, I get it. It's Chip Theory. I know Chip Theory, what they make, right? This is honestly, I would say, over the top. The dice are just nice and chunky and deeply etched, like more than most dice, with very clear symbols, well inked. You actually get one of the Chip Theory poker chips, and this neat like magnetic chip holder that lets it spin and turn. The only thing you actually use it for in Super Sentinels is how many missions you've completed. Like if you have to track, I need to kill 8 bugs before I complete a mission, you use it to track it. The standout though was the cards. The cards are not cards. Like they're not made of card. They're not paper. They are plastic. The entire deck of cards are made of plastic. Like you could bring these to the beach and not worry about things getting wet. And like if the cards start getting schmutzy, you know how like you play a card game enough times, you get that brown, black schmutz, you can just wipe it off. And I got to say, those cards are just super nice. And then they have like a metallic coating on them. I don't know if it's UV coating or metallic. They're just really nice cards that just feel nice.
I will say, watching you play this game, the dice looked very fun.
Yeah.
If there was ever a set of dice I wanted to eat more, it would be this set of dice. They look like candy. They look very yummy. I was also eating sushi at the time. Maybe I was just thinking about food. The other thing was, I know that after you played, there was a few cards that like really confused you, which kind of intimidates me from trying the game, because I'm like, oh, there's stuff that doesn't make sense. But I don't know. That might just be my interpretation because I haven't actually played it.
No, there was definitely 2 cards, like two effects, item effects that just didn't make sense to me. So again, I got to reread the rules. I have watched How to Play, and I don't think I messed anything up with How to Play. But there's obviously something I'm missing about this particular thing. And it was an ability to re-roll a hit to change a miss into a hit. And I think I get it, because I think what I'm supposed to be doing is assigning the dice. And once they're assigned, they've already had their effect. So if I change a hit to a miss, the monster's already lost the health. So I think that's what it was. But anyway, interesting, more involved. Interesting to see someone else try a game system. You don't see that a lot. And most of the time, to be honest, they fail. Up next, I actually played a role-playing game. Like, seriously, I played one. There's a local group here in Windsor called the Windsor Role-Playing and Story Games Group, founded by one of our friends and fan of the show, and actually Patreon patron, Jeff Seuss. They host a monthly one-shot night where they get together at a bubble tea place and play various story games. They call it the One-Shot Society, though it ends up they often get 2 or 3 games in. This month, I actually managed to make it out, so that was awesome. I had planned to go out previous months, and it always fell through, and it actually worked out this time. And I got to bring our copy of Oh Captain, My Captain. This one comes from James D'Amato and Simon and Schuster, who I do have to thank for sending us a couple of copies to check out and share with the local community. So this was a great chance to do this. Now, for anyone who doesn't know Oh Captain, My Captain, you're not going to find it on Board Game Geek, which is weird because it is built on For the Queen from Alex Roberts, which the community has decided is a board game. Somehow this one's a role-playing game. Whatever. We have mentioned For the Queen many times in the show, often recommended as a great starter game, a great improv game, a great get-to-know-each-other game. Well, this is similar to that. This is a light improv role-playing game experience where you get a premise. The premise being that you are a crew who is following a legendary captain. Your crew has come on terrible times, hard times, but the captain has a plan, which involves a perilous journey to get a prize. The other premise, the important thing to this is you have faith that the captain can save you. The actual gameplay involves reading off question cards and answering questions from a deck. Those questions will help define your character, the rest of the characters in the crew, the captain, the journey, and potentially the prize. Now, unlike For the Queen, where you play like a short game is half the deck, a long game is the majority of the deck, this is super quick. This is actually meant to be played. The game box advertises in under an hour. Other people are saying half an hour. This is a more structured experience. There's more of a set premise and a set ending to the game, but you're going to ask a lot less questions for playing per player. With the average being only 12 questions asked, no matter your player group, which is kind of interesting. The other thing it does is has a very structured ending that is completely different from For the Queen. And I don't want to spoil For the Queen if anyone hasn't gone through that experience. But this features multiple different endings, depending on your overall impression of the captain. That's all I'm going to say to not spoil anything. During that story game night, we played twice. Played the game twice, which was awesome. I kind of took over the group. I still feel bad for that, but they said it was awesome, so I'll go with it. Me going to other people's gaming events, me taking over, kind of happens sometimes because I'm just so used to being facilitator. And I did the whole single session Sunday where I introduced the game and my background with it and talked about Alex Ross and stuff. Or not Alex Ross, Alex Roberts. Sorry, Alex Ross is someone else. But then we actually played again. And I'm just going to lump these together, even though it was like a week apart. But Deanna, Sean, and I actually played again a couple days later at the Cookie Bar. Now, stuff I like in this game is the selection of captains is awesome because it's not all pirates, right? And I knew that going in and I loved it. There are interesting things like there's a super, there's sports teams, there's like a cheerleader, there's sci-fi fantasy, as well as, of course, traditional pirates. I loved the multiple endings. One of the things I don't like about For the Queen since the first time I played it is I know how it's going to end. And I loved it the first time I played, and there was a discovery there, and I was like, oh, wow. Now that I've seen it, I find players play towards that end with a goal in mind before you get there, which I find kind of ruins the experience. Well, the fact there are 4 different endings here kind of fixes that for me. I did find the shorter playtime and card count works, but it worked way better with 3 players than it did with 7. The part I'm not sure on is defining the prize. Defining the prize and incorporating the endings has been rough every time I played. Now for the event itself, I've got to say, if you're a local Windsor gamer who is into story gaming and improv style gaming, you should try to check out one of these events. The venue was a little odd, but it worked. And I got to thank the group for, like I said, basically kind of letting me take over for the night and run 2 sessions. So now Gwen joined us for this, which was pretty cool. So Gwen came out. I asked Jeff, I'm like, is this family friendly? He's like, oh, hell yeah. And I'm like, all right, well, Gwen, do you want to go? So it was a little interesting. I know there was some missed expectations there, as we were talking about earlier tonight. So what'd you think, Gwen?
So I was only able to go because I had a PA day the next day. So I was like, Mom asked me like, hey, you want to go to an RPG night? And I was like, why not? But she didn't give me a good explanation of what it was I was attending. She just said, it's a story-based game. Not like Blood on the Clock Tower, but kind of like Blood on the Clock Tower. And I was like, sure. But that gave me the idea that it was going to be like, we go there. There's one specific set game we're supposed to be playing. That was not what was happening. Because we got there's a whole lot of different games, and you were asked your opinion on what you wanted to play, and I had no opinion because I did not know what I was doing. So that was a little bit interesting, but I did have a very good time. It was quite fun. While we were playing Captain and Captain at the start, I was a little bit hesitant because I didn't know the other people there. I'd never played another game similar to that, and I just generally didn't know what to do. And then you had me start with the first card, and I was just like, nope. So I ended up passing off start player to a different person. But once we played through it for a bit, it was a little bit confusing. But once we got to the second game, I think I understood what I was doing, and I really enjoyed it. I actually want to play this game with my friend group. Originally, we were going to be playing it this weekend, but it got canceled. So we're probably going to play it next week, and then we'll see how that goes. But I'm really excited for that.
And then, Sean, you got to play it on at the Cookie Bar. What'd you think?
So this great fun game, it reminds me very much like player creation for masks. The same basic sort of concepts that are there. Otherwise, though, I've never played For the Queen, so it's an introduction to this specific style of the card-based game. The fact that it was just the three of us, you, me, and Deanna, made it nice and easy because we all know each other's comfort levels. And for a game like this, that makes a huge difference because you're not concerned about, oh, am I going to go too blue for this group? Or, oh, are they going to be okay if I show my weird side a little bit? We know each other. We know our weird sides, and it's all pretty easily, pretty good. The flexibility in this game, especially with all those different captains, is great. And I gotta say, you say we decided on one that was a super, but I can totally see how a lot of people would look at that card and not see a super. The art in the game is very flexible and allows a lot of different play in that way. That prize phase, though, it really does require a bit of cooperative recontextualization, I think. And while we were able to make it fit, it worked in our story, it took a bit of effort. And there was that sort of a jarring disconnect when it was first read until we went, oh, but if this and this and this, then blah, blah. And like, oh, okay. And I can't help but wonder if that engaging people in that kind of recontextualization isn't the point. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. One of the things I do need to do, Anthony, who is the other host of the One Society, noted that they watched an actual play and they were pretty sure it was James D'Amato, the designer, who hosted. And I kind of want to see how James runs their game, but I haven't had time to sit down and watch that yet. And I really want to kind of fast forward to that end to see exactly how it worked. It's definitely an experience. I did enjoy it. I think it's good. There are a lot of things to me that I liked better than For the Queen. For the Queen tends to go blue, and that didn't feel at all forced in this. Your basic premise is you trust the captain, not you love the queen. And that just sets a different tone that I think is much more approachable to a wider range of players. I think we're at the point where, I know we talk about playing things 5 times, but I think we've got the gist of this one. I expect a full review in the next few episodes, though I think I'm going to hold off until Gwen does get to play it with her friend group to hear how that goes.
And talking again about the endings, I felt like there was almost as much time that you spent playing the game trying to figure out how to do the ending. I'm like, we did play the game, and now we sit here and we discuss what are we doing, because I'm like, we've got adjectives for a prize and we've got what we just talked about, but besides that, it's just oh, okay, so we figure out what the prize is, we get the ending card, and we're like, oh, now how does this work? And there was one that we actually played where it was we were discussing it for so long with all these serious options, and then we were like, what if it was actually just a birthday party? And then we went with that, and it was just it can turn a little bit silly, or it can be a serious discussion of what actually combines everything that you just talked about.
Now, one thing I will say again, with the lower player count, getting 3 people to agree what a prize is way easier than getting 7 people to agree what a prize is. What I'd love to know is what the suggested player count is. There's nothing on the box or in it. I went through looking and I could not find anything that had a suggested player count. I think maybe the Amazon listing said 6 players, but there was nothing firm on the box saying that. And I do think it might play a little better with smaller groups. Next, 2-player game experience, Architects of Amidas. This is a 2-player only set collection pattern making game. It's got kind of a city building, civ building theme that features a solid tic-tac-toe mechanic. Yes, a solid tic-tac-toe mechanic. You are building a tableau of building tiles in a 3x3 grid in front of you, and they can stack up. I don't even remember if there's a limit on how high you can stack, but you're just building tiles on top of other tiles, which fits the theme of the game. You have 4 workers that you're using to draft tiles, which are also in a 3x3 grid. That's also the timing mechanic. Once 2 of those piles runs out, the game ends. So you like choose a tile, you take it, put your worker where it was, and then place the tile onto your board and score it. And there's 6 different tiles, and they all score differently, and I'm not going to get into the details of that. Now, where tic-tac-toe comes up is when you're placing your worker, if you make a 3 in a row, you unlock an end game scoring opportunity, which I actually thought was really neat. So like you're drafting the tiles, but then there's this little extra thing going on that can get you some bonus points. That's pretty high level, but I think you get the general idea. Now, this is one Deanna actually insisted we bring home from Gamma Expo. Specifically, Hachette was showing off the game, and she got to see a demo of it. It was like, you're going to like this. And I got to admit, I fully admit, when they were kind of giving me the overview, I was like, it doesn't sound like much of a game. No, we were in the Hachette booth, but the actual publisher is Boîte de Jeux. Hachette localizes games. So I got to give Dee credit for this because I've really enjoyed my plays of this. Now, it's only been 3. I was really worried, especially with tic-tac-toe, that it was going to be too light, but it's not. It's very solid and plays very smoothly, with the only real hurdle being is learning what the 6 buildings do. But I find you pick it up pretty quick. None of them are complicated, and you get 2 full sets of reference cards. So like the info's right there in front of you. Bonus for replayability. Those are actually all 2-sided. So there's 2 different ways you can score everything. I don't know. There's just something smooth about this. And what I was impressed by is I taught Sean it, and he like just picked it up instantly, like right away. Like you just kind of, yeah, I get it. This is this type of game. Let's go. What'd you think of it?
So I when you introduced it, when I looked at it just visually as you're pulling things out of the box, I was ready to be meh about this game.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
but it was simple and straightforward, easy, but not, childish. Much like Harmonies, I think. If you are familiar with modern hobby gaming, the pieces just fall into place and it makes sense as a game, which makes it really easy to pick up. The fact that some of the bonus scoring aspects are not make or break for winning, I think really brought this game up a level in my, because especially as a first time player, I'm focused on everything else going on. I don't want to have to think about, if I build and tile in steps in this particular order, I can maximize my scoring over. I didn't have to worry about that because while you can do that, you can also win without it. So it gives you a replayability with, next time I play, I want to try and do this and this, but you don't need to focus on that. And that really made the game soar for me.
Yeah, I got to sit down with Gwen and play this one at some point because I think you'll like it too.
I would like to try it.
The final one I played was a 3-player game of Earth with Eve and Brenda. I love Earth. I don't know. Earth is now the game like Azul where like, go buy, just get Earth. Earth's so good because it is. My next step at this point, besides, we need to do a formal review. We'll do one. I'm ready. I need to try solo. That's what I need to do. Sorry, I need to try it solo because it looks fascinating. Whole different side of the board. What I need to do is I need to reach out to Inside Up and be like, hey, Connor, you got some expansions. You got one live on Kickstarter right now. All my reviewer friends are doing their preview stuff right now. It looks really cool. So yeah, I'm loving Earth. It always feels weird to say it, but I'm like, man, why did I wait so long to play it? Like it was sitting over here on a shelf for far too long. Great game. Eve's first play, she seemed to really dig it, which I was shocked because I wasn't sure it was her kind of game. There is no way to screw your neighbors, which tends to be her favorite mechanic. And man, was I shocked by how quickly she picked it up. Like she just got it and like set up card combos and had this like red wave thing going on. I think the only action she took the entire game was get dirt every round. And she beat me by 3 points. Like she just had this engine going. I'm sure we're probably preaching to the choir. I think most people have discovered Earth 2 years before we have. But if you like big deck tableau building engine builders, get this game. We need to review this. I need to play it solo, but then we're going to review this.
You also need to play it 5-player. Definitely not an excuse for me to play it again. But I believe you said
I don't think we need to play it
5
players.
But you could, and then I could play it again.
Yeah, there you go.
Either way, lastly, this week there was Board Game Club again. We only had 8 people this week, but we actually had a new member, which is always really cool. We all played together this week since we only had 8 people. And the first game that we played was Monstrosity Unusual Suspects, which was my first time playing the Unusual Suspects version of the game. And it was definitely harder to draw as it was instructed. We actually have a few interesting stories. A friend was describing, it was their turn, and they're describing, draw a cylinder, and underneath that put a cylinder at this angle and put a circle on this end. It's all very shapes. And we've shown our drawings, and they're like doing their which one looks most like, and they're like, oh no, I've messed this up. And we're like, well, you can't have messed it up that much because all our boards look the same. We've ended up with the same. And it kind of looked like the prince from Katamari Damacy, or like one of the cousins. It was like that shape. It was just that guy. And we see the card. It is this like amorphous alien creature that was like brown and gray and green and like kind of sinewy and long. It was just like this lanky alien creature. We were like, how is this a cylinder? So that was very interesting. As well as there was one time I was describing it, I was like, you put a candelabra. And so it was like, what's a candelabra? And so in the middle of trying to describe this, I had to try and describe what a candelabra was. I was failing at that. So someone had to leave early. So we did end up swapping to Flip 7 after our play of Monstrosity. And Flip 7 was good again. I guess that's the 3rd week in a row where this has been played at Board Game Club. So I would say it's quite popular and definitely went over really well. There were a few people who did not understand that once they were eliminated, please like move your cards or put them in the middle or something. So I don't ask you if you want to draw another card. They were just kind of leaving their cards up. And I was like, do you want to draw a new card? And they're like, I'm dead. And I'm like, oh.
As something to teach better next time. Yeah, I got to say, Monstrosity Unusual Suspects. I apologize, backers who don't have a copy yet. We do have a pre-release copy. I know you are waiting, and I know they just announced that they are holding off on shipping to the U.S. That's not what we're here to talk about, though. All I got to say is look forward to getting it eventually, because, man, I don't know how to describe it, but just they're harder to describe. Like the original Monstrosity, you're like, it's like a blobby creature and it's got 8 eyes. They're kind of near the middle and it's got the tentacles at the top. That might cover it. This would be like, and it curves in 18 times and it's non-Euclidean. Plus it has a backpack and the backpack's growing a fungus. It's just really out there. And I love it because I don't think one of the problems I have with Monstrosity is you might get to the point where like people who have played it enough are just like, oh, it's the one that looks like the mushroom with the small head. With this one, I don't think you're ever going to be able to just like quickly reference one of the monsters. Though I have a feeling if Gwen plays a year from now and says, it looks like the Katamari Damacy guy, but it's horrible, that her friends may remember what that one in particular looks like.
Yeah, that one. And also there was one that was just a hamster in like a hamster ball with a candelabra on it. And that was the whole monster. It was just a hamster with a candelabra. And it was like, I tried to describe it.
All right, well, that's what's been hitting our tables this week, or weeks, really. What about you? What have you been playing lately? We'd love to hear about it, especially if you post in the What You've Been Playing section of our Discord at discord.tabletopbellhop.com. Well, that was the double bell.
That means our shift's coming to an end, and we're going to have to lock the lobby doors.
Before we start locking things down, let's take a moment to thank a selection of our Tabletop Bellhop Patreon patrons.
Welcome back, Joe Swick. Great to have you again.
Brian Van Beek, thank you, Brian.
William Fisher, thank you.
Andrew Dacey, thank you, Andrew.
Danielle and Owen Thomas, thank you.
Now, your first stop to finding us should be at tabletopbellhop.com, but you can find us all over the web as Tabletop Bellhop, one word, and on your podcatcher of choice as the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast.
We love answering your gaming and game night questions online through email and, of course, here on the podcast. Send your questions to questions@tabletopbellhop.com. Go to our website and click on Ask the Bellhop, or hit us up on social media. We're pretty open to anything. That's all we have for tonight. Sorry to have to cut things a little short there, but we'll be back with another episode sooner than you'd expect.
For the Tabletop Bellhop Gaming Podcast, I'm Sean.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you.
And
game on.